minute by minute journey of Will Clark's base hit up the middle in 1989 to put the Giants into the World Series, as told by Vin Scully. I want to hear it through the eyes and ears of Will Clark, which I know is coming up on your show today. Hi, boys.
What's up, guys?
What's going on?
What's cooking?
Will the Thrill at 2:00, man. I am fired up.
Yeah, well, we had Tristan Peters.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
New giant. He's a forever giant. Yeah, you're gonna have to go deep in your stack of papers.
That's funny.
Richmond Flying Squirrels. Am I right?
I had just ordered my. I didn't hear it because I was on my phone. I was ordering my Nick Zwack jersey.
Yeah, Nick Zwack.
Yeah, Nick Zwack. I'm gonna be walking around with a Zwack.
There were
pretty good.
There were some cool names that came to the Giants.
Some thought that Farhan's efforts yesterday were Nick Zwack.
Yeah. Carson Seymour. Maybe
I'm gonna give you 3. I'm slow today.
Carson
Was there
Seymour.
a Japucky or something? What's the guy's name? Zapucky?
Yeah, Zapucky.
Yes, Thomas Zapucky.
Sounds like a character from Laverne and Shirley,
Right.
quite frankly.
Although this is a new thing I've never seen this before, where you just take people who aren't even on your team and then trade them and get people to send you players. I think it's going to be the new thing that sweeps the nation.
The Rosenthal?
We got players that
Matt Boyd. I mean,
Trevor Rosenthal. Sign people who are on the team and then trade them and get people.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
I'll say this for Farhan, and I said this 2 weeks ago to you two. I said, look, just go all in and show us you went for it. He said there was no Giant player anywhere on the farm untouchable. We tried to make a play for Soto. So, I told Larry from that vantage point, that's all I asked. They chose the better package.
Yeah, if you take it at face value, I agree. Like, there's only one thing, I guess, they didn't get him. So you hear from Farhan yesterday, and there's one of two answers he can give. One of them is, look, we decided that the price was too high, or we didn't want to obliterate our farm system. That, I think, would have been more upsetting than what he did say if you take it at face value, which was we threw our best shot.
But what am I supposed to do?
And
take them at face value, right?
We tried.
Well, I'm sick of them trying, and that's what Mark was talking about.
Why don't you walk down the hall when the ratings come in and go, hey, Matt, you know what? We tried.
Oh, I've tried that.
That's right.
And you know what the response is? We closed the door.
Yeah, exactly. We really tried. But you get the context there. I mean, if you're talking about building farm systems, the Padres started what they're doing, which Scott Harris told me directly. We are using the exact same model, and the Padres started it 3 to 4 years earlier. They had more to offer. Now you can get mad about that all you want. That's a fact. That's not even mostly on Farhan. That is mostly on where the farm system sat when he was hired. You're right. Eventually, like, you got it, and we talked about this earlier.
Yeah,
you got to stop losing. And I don't mean games.
Well, that too.
I mean in the offseason. You got to stop losing on the trades. You got to stop losing on every free agent marker. But we knew when Juan Soto became available, we knew right away the Giants were not going to have the strongest package to offer in baseball.
Well, we knew once Rizzo came back and said, we're not throwing Corbin and Strasburg to lower the price. Because that's the Giants' advantage.
Totally.
Right, they can take on the cash. But Mark had an interesting question, and I'll throw this out to both you guys. Okay. And the new ownership, there's a sense that maybe the new ownership doesn't want to spend like the old ownership did. At what point do we start to look at a lack of spending and put that on the ownership and not on Farhan and Scott Harris?
Well, I outlined this to Goo yesterday. I mean, it's not a great sports radio thing because it's a little convoluted. But there's no cap. So what should the Giants spend? I mean, it's an open debate. I think you should spend something that is relatable to your revenue. The Dodgers have more revenue, so they should spend more. But the Giants spent a lower percentage of their revenue than the Dodgers, and it amounted to about $20 million. If they had reinvested that $20 million and spent the same percentage, I think they would have had a Castellanos. They would have had a Schwarber. They would have had a couple guys more, and they probably will be closer to the race or to the wild card.
Yeah, maybe. I also relate it just to what baseball teams are spending. The Giants should be a top 7 or 8 payroll.
What are they? 13?
Yeah, 13.
Yeah. They should always be the top 7 or 8
because that's where their revenue sits.
And I would expect that they will be by the start of next year. Or else.
Yeah. My question to you, and I heard you say that driving in, is the inception of that thought. Like, what made you think or makes you think? And I'm not saying you're wrong, but what proof do we have to have that thought? Because it's taking the onus off of Farhan to say they're holding on to the money, And you're right. Forget Run DMC guys. I think hard times are among the Giants and their fans going into next year, because you asked a great question. Who do you go get, or what do you go get? And they better be starting on that now. But if you can't find that, this could get ugly for a little while.
Yeah. So
after 107,
what proof do we have? I could answer that and say we don't have any. Or what I think they would respond and say, and I know that this, there isn't a response to this too, but they put $300+ million on the table for Harper. Yeah. Right? They went after even smaller ones. Like I really wanted Seiya Suzuki at the start of this year. I was really hoping. I thought he would fit the Giants perfectly. I think they did too. They were in it. They were in it. They offered the money. He didn't want to come to San Francisco. He went to Chicago. So there's always an answer, but you're right to ask it, because in the end, there will not be any proof until they actually do it. And so next year, whether it's Judge or whether it's your second target or your third or your fourth or your fifth or whatever,
JD Martinez did.
They're gonna have to do it.
It's got to be somebody.
They got to pay.
It's got to be a couple of somebodies. It's got to be, some players to where, as a Giants fan, you think, okay, I'm excited, because right now you're not excited. Any of the people they got back, you've never heard of them. The team that you have right now, honestly, if you go up and down the lineup, Yarmeen Mercedes, good little player, David VR. These are not players that are going to draw fans to your product, and you're losing at a pretty high rate right now.
It's time to hear the direction and a timeline. It's time for him to verbalize a direction and a timeline, that, in my opinion, because I think there's a lot of fans who are like, you know what? I like Farhan. I think he's smart. I like Gabe. I think he's smart. I like the Giants. And I'm a Giant guy, but you know what? I don't know what direction they're going, and I'd like to hear it verbalized and committed to.
First of all, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM on HD1 San Francisco, always live on the Odyssey app. You're never going to hear them put a timeline on it, because execs don't do that,
but they owe us that at this point. It's 4 years in. I agree, Mark, at the beginning, but once you're 4 years in, I think it's like, hey guys, I realize you're impatient. First you accept the responsibility, then you understand. I understand why you're upset. This is what our vision is, and this is what we think our timeline is.
Yeah, and it can't say what the timeline is, though, because it's 2024, and nobody wants to hear him say that. No one wants to hear.
I want to hear him say it. Well, I think season ticket holders want to hear him say it.
And I think he would put the rat on the table and say, guys, look at our farm system. We all know it's 2024, maybe 2025. Wow,
yeah, but the problem with that is twofold, which is A, you're then putting a clock on your own job, which people don't do.
Right.
And two, and this is what I was always upsets me about this conversation, which is just obliterates the context of what could happen. Marco Luciano got hurt this year. That changes the timeline, and it's nobody's fault. And so you're going to sit here and go, well, our timeline is 2024. Unless A, B, C, D, and E happen, which we have no idea about, no control over. Whenever someone does this, and it came up on our text chain last night, which is like, well, how long do you give him? Well, what happens between now and then? I don't know. How long do you give Kyle Shanahan? Does Trey Lance play this year? Does he get hurt? I don't know. Like, there's so many different things that can happen. So I don't think it's fair in either direction to put a time on it now, because it takes away the journey and the story and what unfolds.
Well, how would you grade the 4 years, though?
And when people say, how long you give him, I go, till what? He already gave you 107 wins once.
Yeah, but you don't get forever. You don't get forever.
But,
and Kapler's got, 3 more years on his contract?
But it presupposes that everything under his tenure has been like, we're sitting here, we're waiting, this is bad, something's wrong. They were the 1 seed 9 months ago.
Right.
So waiting till what? Does he have to win it all? Does he have to win a division? Does he have to I don't know. Does he have to pay for a star? Does he have to give you a good hot dog experience at the like what? Till what is the blank I want to fill in?
Yeah. I would just like to hear him say, you know what, you can always use the English language. I mean, you use it to define what you want to say. If you want to say, you know what, in a perfect world, our timeline would be we're contending regularly within the next 3 years. Then you give yourself it's in an ideal world. You need to communicate to the people that are paying heavy freight to support your product. Because guess what? You're going to put a product in the field for the next 2 months that's and you're going to ask people to pay big time dollars for it. So I think you owe them something. And that something is just some dialogue.
Yes,
as far as like, this is what I'm thinking. Just be open with your fans. This is a great time for Farhan to sit down, do a lot of media, do a lot of town halls, talk to the season ticket holders, because I know season ticket holders and they're sitting there going, you know what? I don't think I'm going to re-up next year.
No,
and that's a problem.
They're totally right. But see, I don't think he owes them dialogue, because we get that and it's empty. He owes the fans a product. He owes the fans a product.
But he can't change the product right now.
He can't do it until December.
But he can do it in December.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been saying all day. Like when you say, how long do you give him? And I say, till what? I don't, 2024, 25, win a World Series. He owes the fans that some of the money they're spending on parking shows up in their payroll next year.
Right.
They're underwriting this. They're underwriting this, and you're going to ask a season ticket holder to probably make a commitment here in the next few weeks or few months. I think you should be able to say to him, you know what? Let's temper expectations on this free agent market, because in our view of the baseball world, the free agent avenue is not the avenue that we really want to go. At least then you temper expectations so we don't sit here going judge, 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 and the fans are all ginned up with judge, judge, judge. And all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I know the big boys ever going after judge.
If you're right, if that's their plan,
right?
Because right now, if you go out on the free agent market and you window shop again.
Coming from you, I love that, because I don't need to know the plan.
No.
Just get us a Will Clark, give us a big boy, give us something the Padres have and the Dodgers have, or give us something. I don't need to know a plan.
Well, and I'm a big believer in, we get too caught up in stars and name value and all this. Just win. You have to go win. Like they didn't have star value versus the Dodgers last year, but they won. So everyone was totally satisfied. Pence said that to me the other day. He goes, this is like winning comes, then the stars. That's like the winning creates the stars. He's a star. He wasn't a star, but then they won World Series. And now he's a star. So they just need to win. And this is San Francisco. You don't need to wait. There's no waiting.
Well, we are waiting now until the winter, because the trade deadline passed.
Because this year didn't go well.
Backfilled the roster.
There's 2 months
3 of the
left.
4 years didn't go well. Last year went crazy well. The first year you were mediocre, then you were mediocre. Last year was one of the most remarkable regular seasons in Bay Area history.
Incredible.
And now you're back to mediocre. So what are you going to do this offseason to, like you said, there's stars and there's winning, and right now you have neither.
This is really fascinating on our text line. So 408, it's a fair point. However, there's a ... Lots of professions are required to give timelines. My contractor can't get away with not giving a timeline, regardless of who gets hurt. Right. Here's the comeback to that. When's the last time your contractor actually finished on the original timeline that they gave?
I hope it's not next week.
Has any contractor ever finished any timeline?
Absolutely.
Never.
Absolutely.
The answer's never.
No.
I don't know how
Nobody's
much.
ever remodeled a house and had it finished on the
Trust
day
me.
that you.
How dare you jinx me right now? Chinchilla construction currently underway with the bathroom demo.
And what's their timeline?
Yeah.
I haven't actually gotten to it yet. He said we're going to bring somebody in 2024.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to bring some help in.
Whatever timeline they give you, I'll take the over.
Exactly.
Right now.
How dare you?
Will there be a work order change?
There better not be. When we take up the subfloor, there might be some joist issues.
We found some surface mold on one of the joists, and so we're going to do a work order change.
You guys are killing me right now, by the way.
Wow.
You should
We
see
haven't
that.
started it.
People at Chinchilla Construction will not slow play me.
Because
Felix, I'm with you, dog.
because stuff happens. Stuff happens.
Yeah, and
So, like,
stuff
I'm not
doesn't
gonna
happen though. Down at 3rd and King, nothing happens.
Well,
we
right,
find a guy from the Savannah Bananas that we acquire and
But
get him in his own car to send him to Virginia.
That's why I'm not interested in the timeline. I don't care where it is, 2024, 2025.
But you're the anomaly of Giants fans. Most Giants fans want what Larry's talking about, which is a timeline.
which is odd, because that seems like
they're paying
Larry,
the bill.
Larry, listen, you guys let me finish the sentence. I don't want a timeline that talks about 2 or 3 years from now. Now, your timeline is now. You owe,
or else what?
You owe, or else what?
Or else,
that's unrealistic.
timelines in another
Look,
year.
it's baseball. They're not going to. No one's going to win every year. But like your product should be a good product all the time.
And
all the time.
They're 1 for 4 in Farhan's
and
era.
it's not right now. Well, there's context to years 1 and 2, obviously.
Of course.
But who thinks this is good enough? Are you all pinning that
No,
on me? I don't think
is.
that this is good
I'm
enough.
waiting on the podcast on 107 because that was the most incredible season in the world.
Just don't call it a fluke because that's triggering.
Yeah,
around
really.
these
I don't
parts.
care. I don't care if we win another
Don't do it.
game. Just give me a good Sunday in the park. All right. I don't care if we win
Yeah,
another
like
game.
the people
I just
that
want
are,
happiness on Sunday.
people that are paying for the parking and the beer and the nachos and the seats. What was the seats? The thing that you got texted the other day?
209 face value for the. It was
What?
fourth, they were fourth row next to the Giants
Come on.
dugout, and a guy on our golf thread. I won't out his name.
He was
because-
giving them to you, though.
No, he was trying to sell them at face. What we paid is 209 a pop. 4 good ones next to the Giants dugout. Cub series, 209 a pop.
Memo to friend. You don't sell to your friends.
No, correct.
Will, I got a couple tickets. You need them? Larry. Well, you won't understand my text. We're becoming best friends. I sent him a text this morning. I'm a F texter. I admitted that to the world.
Yeah.
I don't care about it. I hate it.
You're you.
I fired one off this morning, and he comes back. Who is this? I go, it's your boy Goo. I thought we were best friends.
What the hell is this?
Wow, Larry. I said, this mother. I had to voice text, and then I voice text what I needed, and we were good. But you learned me to death. I just can't stand it.
Yeah.
Fragments, run
A little bit of a puzzle.
Who needs a texting intern? That's what he needs.
Oh, I said, well, I got Willard. I said, I got the wrong. I put it in wrong. Then I said, oh, this is Larry. Welcome to Guru Land.
No, I did, no. If you're looking for a text that you can't find that you think you sent, I'm no doubt it went to Mark Ibanez. I'm sure that's where it all ended up.
Never forget that one.
All right, when's Will coming on?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, Will Clark.
2 o'clock.
All right, Larry and Goo till then.
He brings the passion.
For what? I want to know now. I'm mentally invested. Don't tell me to pray and you don't say what for.
He brings the perspective.
Yeah, I think they both have a great point. Get off me, text line.
He's truly one of a kind.
That is wow. Oh, my God.
And he's doing a great and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
You heard Stoney. Say what you want to say, and I'm going to say it for us. Larry and I are going to have a great show. We're here to 3 p.m. We got Randy Cross and the great Will Clark. Larry, good to see you. It's our last day of the week.
What's up, man? I have had a good time hanging out with you, man. You are fun personified.
Willard, I think he means that, but you got to look in the good in people. He said it, so believe him,
Wait a
right?
second, I'll text it to you.
Okay, but look, I sent you a text. I thought I was doing good.
What was that? What was that
And it
text?
said, "What is this?" I said, "Whoa, who got his phone?" But
I mean, the text was not. I mean,
you
it
can't
just-
read it.
it
Don't
was-
read
it
it.
was-
Yeah, you can.
I mean,
you're
what?
right.
What?
Take it easy, Will. But you were honest, though. But we got a lot to get to. Where you want to start? Because we lost another great, Larry. I mean, life is short, and I know that's a cliche, but it's real. We lost a great Vin Scully.
Yeah.
I told you, growing up rooting for the Pirates, they would play the Dodgers. My parents had got a new Mark 7, a Lincoln, and I'd go in the garage, true story, 14, 13 years old, listen to all 9 innings of the Dodgers Pirates. But it was Vin, and Vin by himself teaching you without being that know-it-all. He was he was everything, substance, style, his wordplay, had humor. And Larry, I told you yesterday about me. I'm a nerd when it comes to uniforms, and I'm going to call myself a nerd when it comes to commentators. They're the icing on the cake. Sometimes I can watch a high school game if it was broadcasted by the right people.
Yeah.
So that's important to me. And I know a lot of people, I don't care. I'm just watching the game. But Vin Scully was the GOAT. Wherever you want to put him up there, he was the man.
Yeah. I mean, he's just an incredible announcer, the best. I mean, the very best. I mean, between him and like Brent Musburger, those guys.
That's my guy. That's my second
Brent
dude.
Musburger's like
You're looking live.
Yeah, I mean, and then you think of all these incredible major sports memories of our lifetime. One of those two guys seemed like they were announcing all of these events.
The catch.
Everything, the catch, and then that catch that
Ray Ryder was in the end zone. The GOAT.
Yes, he
Yeah,
was in the
I
end
call
zone.
it
I
the
remember
GOAT,
seeing him
yeah.
there with the mustache. You can see the pictures. But no, to me, it was Vin's ability to understand that yet while he was an incredible wordsmith,
Okay.
an incredible broadcaster, he understood his place in the broadcast. So like when Montana rolls right and he finds Clark in the corner of the end zone, Clark caught it. And then he let it breathe and he let it go.
Wow.
And here's the crowd. And then I believe it's like 20 seconds later or something. And he's like, it's a madhouse here at Candlestick. Now, I mean, there'd be a sponsor, there'd be fantasy stats, there'd be like 9 different references. The broadcasters would inject themselves talking over the crowd. He didn't do that. He let it breathe. Same thing with 86 series. You know, Buckner behind the bag.
Oh, Mookie.
And, you know, here comes Knight and the Mets win it, you know. And then he just let the whole thing breathe and let
That's
the crowd.
a skill, Larry.
Oh, man, it really is.
Let's hear, you know what? Let's hear the catch real quick.
Okay, let's go.
They're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
The right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. Dwight Clark. It's a madhouse at Candlestick with 51 seconds left. Dwight Clark is 6'4". He stands about 10 feet tall in this crowd's estimation.
Courtesy CBS, 1981, the NFC Championship game. Unbelievable. And Larry, can you keep going on Let It Breathe? Because I'm a bad listener. I'm trying to work on that. And I don't let anything, but I'm working on that. It's a skill. I get
what
you.
we're doing
We
here.
get right out of here. But you know what I mean? One-on-one, like when I'm talking, like you got to just relax and let Larry speak, you know?
Could you imagine if I just, Matt, I'm letting it breathe.
Not
Matt.
in our business.
I'm letting it breathe. No, but I did an interview with Vin Scully.
Interviewed him?
Yes, interviewed him. It was 1997 or 8. We were at Candlestick. I'm just on the radio for the first time, you know, like months before, and I'm doing a weekend show. And he doesn't know me, didn't call the PR guy, didn't set it up with him, just saw him in the bowels of Candlestick right outside the Dodger clubhouse. And I was doing the show with Chris Townsend. And Townie, who you know well, we both love Townie. And we just went up to him. Vin, hey, we're doing this Weekend Insider show, and we'd love to have you on, and would you join us? And he's like, gentlemen, I would love to. And he puts down his briefcase and his jacket, and he sits down with us.
Always
and
clean.
He gives us 20 minutes. He wasn't planning on it, but he understood. He's a bigwig. We were nobodies. We had great enthusiasm for baseball, but that's it. He then sat there and spun yarns. Well, first, gentlemen, let me tell you, I don't know if you knew this, but I actually grew up a Giants fan.
Wow.
And he starts talking about growing up in New York and being a Giants fan, the beginning of the rivalry and how it came west. And I mean, it was just glorious. And he gave us 20 minutes and he was super enthused. This was a guy, Goo, that understood that he was not just the announcer of the Los Angeles Dodgers, that he was an ambassador for the sport of Major League Baseball. He saw what it was. He saw what it was becoming. He understood the importance to sit down with young nothings like us and spin yarns. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And we were indebted to him. And I remember the program director going, wow, that was an incredible show this weekend. I'm like, oh yeah, what'd you like about it? He's like, dude, you guys got Vin Scully for 25 minutes. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, he was nice to us and he said he would do it. And we just kept talking. So, it's like when you're so young, you don't know that you're not supposed to get that.
Gotcha.
Right. So I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to get 25 minutes with Vin Scully one-on-one.
And now look at you years
2-on-1.
later, you could still recall it like it was yesterday.
Unbelievable.
And Larry, I think we're the same age. He did it for the same team for 67 years.
Amazing.
Just think about that. All the relationships that didn't sour, the egos that were not. I mean, when I saw the guy was like Bill Russell, and I'm saying this, they both passed, but they always had that smile. The dude truly loved what he did. And I think about 1974, Hank Aaron, the home run comes. Yeah. Oh, this is a great time for the world, Atlanta. A black man being cheered in the deep South, but the way he said it, it was just pure, man. It was poetic. It was pure. His cadence. And I don't know if you read the Rattle piece. He wrote a piece today talking about there have been and again, the biggest compliment I hear in life is a form of flat imitation.
Yeah.
But a couple guys trying to be him, but he never went anywhere to let them guys surpass him, because he had a great run. 88 years old.
Amazing man. And, I don't know if you know this, but Ned Colletti, former Giant assistant GM, former Dodger GM, is a good friend of mine. And he just got back from London yesterday. And so we're texting back and forth. And I'm like, wow, Vinny died. And he starts, sending me text. I've never met a finer person in all my years of covering, involved in Major League Baseball. I've never met a finer person than Vin Scully. I mean, just every great trait: generous, kind, warm, humble. Just so many great traits. And hearing Mike Krueger, who grew up in Southern California, idolizing, Vin Scully, saying on the broadcast last night that, hey, for him, it was like Krueger had made it when he had heard Vin Scully say his name. He came to the big leagues, Krueger did in 77. He's like, the first time I heard Vin just announce my name, it was like a major moment for me in my career, because I grew up listening. That was the soundtrack of my childhood. And now I'm part of the game. And it was a great thrill for Krueg. So I mean, just a true Giant, and a guy who and think about it, Giants fans hate the Dodgers. They hate everything about the Dodgers, and yet I don't know that I've ever heard any Giant fan ever say one disparaging word about Vin Scully, because he transcended the rivalry.
And that's beautiful. And I'm trying to think of how many athletes or guys, and gals up in the booth that fit that bill to where they're not on your team or calling your team, but yet you tip the cap and have respect for them. I'm watching the post-game show yesterday for the Giants, and Estes was talking about his first time up in the big leagues. And he goes back and listens to, he was in the clubhouse listening to our guy and Vin, and Vin knew a factoid about Sean, and Sean was like, where the hell did he get that? And he was calling around to his friends like, did you give him this? But that was just his research game was just on point, and he brought that into it. So I thought it was cool listening to Estes talk about the great Vin Scully.
He worked alone, Gua. That's the other thing.
Amazing.
You know how hard it is to carry a baseball game all by yourself?
I can imagine.
I mean, and one time I'm doing a show, and I get to the park real early, a spring training game. We're in Scottsdale, and Lon Simmons is there, and he's highlighting the Colorado Rockies. Late great Lon Simmons is highlighting the Rockies media guide. And I got there, and we were on 11. He's there at 7 o'clock. He's not on the air till 12:30 or something. And he's highlighting the thing. And I'm like, wow, Lon, that's incredible. If your fans could see this, the work ethic that you're still putting into your craft at this point in your career, that's really impressive. And he's like, Vin Scully does it every series. He does it every day. He takes out the media guide. He highlights the portions he wants to, and then he would sit there and spin yarns about this player from, Encinitas, California, and he went to this high school, and he got and he just wove all this stuff into the broadcast. Truly an amazing broadcasting talent.
Yeah, that was well said. And I'll tell you what, for all the listeners out there, they're going to replay. Not too long ago, they had last year for the playoff series against the Dodgers, Damon and Ratto interviewed Vin. So they're going to replay that interview in its entirety today.
Awesome.
And then
what time do we know?
I don't know, but it'll be anytime between 3 and 6. So the 5, it'll be 5.
5 o'clock.
Yeah,
nice.
5 p.m. So I'll tell you what, the trade deadline, Larry, has come and gone, and I want to hear from Giant fans. Are you mad? You sad? I mean, what do you make of this Giant team and what they did at the deadline and what they didn't do? We'll discuss it when we get back. If you're looking for all the best 49er content from 95.7 The Game, text 49ers to 20357. That's 49ers to 20357. Make sure to click the link, then hit subscribe button in the Odyssey app or wherever you find your favorite podcast, powered by DuckDuckGo, privacy simplified.
it really made an impact if you were down there listening to it.
We're about to get into what the Giants did or didn't do, depending on who you are, yesterday at the deadline. But at 1 o'clock, we're joined by 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Niners, Randy Cross. We'll get his thoughts on everything San Francisco 49ers. But the deadline yesterday, I don't know if you agree with me, Larry, but I'm going to give Farhan a pass in this sense. He said it. He spoke into a microphone. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because this was all I was asking. The big guy, Soto, go in, do all that you can. By all accounts, to me, he did that. He checked that box because he said there was no player on the farm untouchable. They went all in, put all the chips in, and for whatever reason, the Nationals chose, I know the reason, a better package with better players and better prospects. So with that said, it stinks. It sucks for the Giants. But as far as his job, and again, it's another, I asked a girl to dance. She said no. Quietly, there's a list growing of the Giants trying to get big boppers on their team. So with that said, it stinks. It's bad. But he's off the hook for me in regard to at least you tried everything you could. And you didn't say Luciano was untouchable. You didn't say Bishop was untouchable. So from that vantage point, I'm okay with what happened.
See, I'm not. I'm not okay with what happened, and I'm not letting Farhan off the hook. Farhan needs to do an interview with somebody who's going to actually follow up with a real question because he said, well, our deal, we tried for Soto, but our deal wasn't accepted. We haven't had a good year in the minor leagues. Well, who's doing your selecting in the amateur draft? You need to be doing a better job. Logan White is a scouting director for the Padres. He came from the Dodgers. So he built up the Dodgers system. He went to San Diego. He's built up the Padres system. If you don't have enough capital in prospects 4 years into the job, I need to ask the question, are you confident in your minor league people, whoever is advising you to make these picks? Do you have the right equation right now? Because you're not getting the results that the Padres are getting. You're not getting the results the Dodgers are getting. So I think it's fair to ask, Farhan, is your process flawed? Are the people that you're empowering to make these evaluations, are they doing it well enough? Are you evaluating them? Are you looking for new people in that arena? I mean, let's dig a little deeper, not just be like, well, we didn't have the best package. You're 4 years on the job. Why didn't you have the best package? You have more revenue than the San Diego Padres. In theory, you have a better winning equation. And when you factor in your iconic franchise, your ballpark, your revenue, your support from the fan base, your history. Preller's never even gone to the playoffs. You got 3 World Series in the last decade, roughly. I mean, you have a better equation. Why are you losing out? I think somebody needs to press him a little bit on their process of bringing people into the organization. It seems like the best players coming in out of the amateur draft are high school hitters. You're not investing in high school hitters. You're investing in college pitching. Explain to me why. Explain to me why your philosophy is a better philosophy, despite the fact you're not getting the results. I think he needs.
I'm not mad at you.
He needs some interviews where people push back and people follow up instead of just laughing about his fantasy team and saying, "Well, you know what? We'll get you out of here. We'll get you out of here before the end of the inning because your team's so horrendous defensively, they can't get 3 outs while you're sitting with us."
No, that's pretty good. The whole thing. There you Steiny. You're listening to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game. We got you locked in until 3 p.m. Larry in for Steiny. I'm going to say this. I love that. But at the end of the day, will you go to bed feeling better? Or when you have your Fruity Pebbles at night, will you feel better that he answered these questions? Because at the end of the day, to me, the reality is when I turn on the Giants, the players are going to be the same. And what I would like to know is the 4 years on the job, why isn't the farm littered with more? Why all of a sudden now are we talking about 2 or 3 years for said player when a couple years ago it was like, oh, man, these guys are coming. They're coming fast. So what happened to that timeline? I'm with you. But what would those answers, whatever he said, suffice? Because it sounds like you want his feet held to the fire.
I want more explanation. Hey, the Padres had a better deal. Okay, great. Why did they have a better deal? Well, they had this player and that player. Great. How did they get that player?
I'm not mad at that.
Let's start digging a little deeper and figuring out, is there a flaw in their process? Is there a flaw in the people who are your farm directors? Is it a developmental issue? Are you picking the wrong players in the draft? Do you have a differing philosophy than them? Logan White, I would say it to him right now. Hey, Farhan, Logan White, I'm sure you know him. He did an incredible job in LA. The Padres poached him, and now their farm system is productive. What would it take if you wanted to poach a guy like Logan White from the Padres and have him run your farm system? He seems like the key guy.
JD.
Maybe it's time to invest some of the incredible revenue that you have in the minor leagues and handicapping the draft at a better rate and getting a better success rate than you're currently enjoying. I mean, I just think it begs follow up. It begs more questions, not just like, hey, in Farhan we trust.
No doubt. And that was a thing. And now it's like in Farhan, I don't know, because that's how I'm feeling. We're about to grab a call here shortly, Larry. Do you agree with me? And I went to bed last night and I told my pops this. I forget Run DMC. I said that earlier. Hard times are upon the Giants. And the reason is the Padres are obviously better. But let's say they don't make it, because I don't have them making it this year. They could shock the world and do it. I would love to see it.
We both
would. Give me a fighter, a puncher's chance. But this can get ugly before it gets better if you're telling me you're running out this team next year. And I know Willard and Dibbs talked about it. Okay, this offseason, what if you strike out on Judge? It's not my job to go find the talent. That's on you. And then you got to close the deal. And when you talk about Harper, Stanton, the one constant is all those guys were available. And for whatever reason, they didn't come here. And I just keep bringing up Bonte and Willard. They had a debate on whether or not this is a destination, San Francisco. And now I'm starting to okay, what if you don't get Judge? This can get ugly, and it can get ugly fast, Larry.
Yeah.
You're telling me you're going to run Belt back out there, Crawford, Longoria can't stay healthy. You know, Jock Peterson made the All-Star team, and he may be on the first thing out. I don't know what's going on with him. We don't take calls that you want Jock roaming left field again next year. I haven't heard too many of those. So this thing has the ingredients to go sour. If you think this is bad how they're playing, I'm talking about next year. This can get ugly fast.
I mean, verbalize a direction. You know, we've pivoted, and I've heard Mark talking about Judge. Is it productive for all of us to sit there and talk about Aaron Judge, and free agency if Farhan and the Giant Brass have no intention of jumping in with both feet and being hyper aggressive? Because they're not getting Aaron Judge unless they are hyper aggressive. So I would hate to go down that road.
Do you
and
think
start
they got
talking
humbled
about free
by
agency.
losing out on Soto? Do you think Farhan's like about Judge, what you just said? Okay, this next time we're going full throttle. We're going in.
Well, I mean, there's also, from talking to guys like Ned and executives around baseball, the reality is, Goo, is that when the list of free agents comes out and you're doing your due diligence, no, there's a whole list of Major League Baseball players that are going to tell you, you know what? Don't even bother offering me anything. We're not interested in living west of the Mississippi. I love it. You love it. We're here.
That hurts.
But there's a lot of people that won't consider
Steiny
living
says
here.
that all the time, and I fight him. I'm like, this is the Bay Area, the greater Bay Area.
But this is also California, huge tax rates. The reality is, if you're making the kind of chicken that these guys are making, you're keeping more of it if you're playing for the Marlins than you are if you're playing for the Giants. Now, doesn't seem like it bothers the Dodgers. They're still able to sign guys.
Diego, you're right.
I think really more than anything, the question is, what is the direction and what's your expectation? Let's verbalize it now, because we started with, hey, he's a smart guy and we like him, and he's got a nice little dialogue. He's pretty glib. He does good interviews. He seems really intelligent. He's very friendly. Let's give him an opportunity. It's now year 4. Now in year 4, I think people would say, yeah, he had success last year, 107. Just verbalize what your direction is in an ideal world. Are you going to jump in the free agent market, or should we temper our expectations there? Do you view it as it's got to come from your farm before free agency, or is that not your philosophy? I want to know what the philosophy is, what the direction is. And it's easy for us. It's easy for talk show hosts who don't pay a freaking nickel for any of these tickets. We go for free. We have a pass. I've got friends who have season tickets. They're debating, do we want to re-up next year? Speak directly to them and sell your program. That's what I would want to hear.
Okay, I'm not mad. Let's go out to the phone lines to my hometown, Union City, and welcome Byron to the program. What's up, Byron? I think we lost Byron. But if ESPN came to me right now, Larry, and they said, shout out Sterling, not the Sterling that back, John Sterling. If they said, hey, we want you to pick a subject matter for the next 30 for 30, you know what it would be? And I know I need your help to get past this. It would be last year's 107. I just don't think in my lifetime, especially now, I just feel like the chickens have come home to roost in this matter. Luck. You utilized everything. You came up roses. You were hitting on 10 at the blackjack. Everything went your way. I just don't think we've processed how big of a feat, even though it didn't culminate in the World Series title, Larry, how big of a feat it was for that cast of characters, that team, that manager to win 107 games. And I think some of that residue is on me when it comes to when I sit down with my remote and I put on NBC Sports Bay Area to watch a Giant game. That residue has me looking at this team through that prism. Like just 9 months ago, you guys were doing everything right. And I know Posey's gone, but if you're telling me this is who they are, especially after the All-Star break, and I know you could say I'm being short, that's a short sample, Larry, it can get ugly. I feel like it's ugly now that your base is loaded. I'm thinking this might be the game. You're down 6-0. Lamont Wade Jr., and it happens. You strike out with the bat in your hand. You don't even swing, but you don't score. Your GM's upstairs talking to the great Krueg and Kipe about what he didn't do, and then you look like your team looks like the Bad News Bears diving for balls after they already hit the ground. It was just ugly.
It was ugly.
But tell me when it's going to stop.
Well, it's funny. Your first point talking about a 30 for 30 and wanting to
107.
Seriously, I mean, think about this for a second. What we saw last year is almost forget almost because I can't think of it. And I'm been around for seemingly a long time. What is even close to it? I mean, think about it. They won 107. They won 107 last year, and look what they're doing this year, and look what they did before the 107. I can't think of a comp in the history of sports, in any sport. Seriously, there's no football team that went, 5-11, 5-11, 15-1, and then 5-11, 5-11. There's no NBA team that wins 22 games, 27 games, 22 games, 65 games, 22 games, 22 games. What we saw from last year's Giants is one of the most singular, amazing seasons in the history of American sports, because look what they produced. That was the best team in 139 years of Giants baseball.
And you're talking about McCovey, Bonds,
Mays, Cepeda, Marichal, Will Clark, Mitchell.
Man.
They're all looking up at the 2021 San Francisco Giants, and look at them last year. Look at them this year. In the NBA, has there ever been a one-year wonder? Has there ever been a team that was bad? And
the Atlanta Hawks one year, they got the number 1 seed, then they got ousted in the playoffs. It was a few years back. But,
okay. I was thinking maybe 83 Sixers with Moses, who were awesome that one year.
But they fall off.
But they didn't fall off dramatically. I mean, they fell off. And in football, I can't think of any. I can't think of a one team that was like, they're putzing along, winning 5-6 games, and all of a sudden they go 14-2, and then they win 5 or 6 games going forward. Maybe the 85 Bears, but even the 85 Bears, I think they went 14-2 in 86.
Yeah.
So I mean, what the Giants did last year felt like it was lightning in a bottle, and now a year removed from it, it's almost unfathomable that they did it.
Yeah. Let's go out to Petaluma and welcome George to the program. What's up, George?
Hey, Larry, Guru.
Hey, what's up?
I was thinking about this, a couple weeks ago, and I think the thing that really bothers me is, with the Giants, what I was doing is looking at the core players they have or don't have. And I was thinking about where they were like 10 years ago. And, they had core players like Posey, and they had Crawford and Belt and Sandoval. and Bum and, the pitchers that they had and the relief pitchers. And you had about 10, 12 core players that they had for the next 10 years. I was thinking about this, like I say, you look at this, what they have now, how many core guys do you think that they can have on this team in 5 years from now? I mean, I was thinking about it, I was going up and down the list.
Doval, Webb, right?
Maybe Webb. I mean, but can you think of anyone else that would be on this team in 3 to 5 years?
Maybe VR, maybe. I mean, Joey Bart.
And go ahead, give him some love.
Joey Bart hit a bolt last night to center field.
And he watched it too.
And I guess if there was one positive for me coming out of the trade deadline is that they didn't hawk Joey Bart, because Joey Bart's hitting 150. And
he's my favorite Giant right now to watch.
Exactly. And he's the one guy that you're like, man, if you trade this guy may wind up being like, Matt Williams in 3 years, somebody who's hitting 35 bombs and a catcher. And I like what I've seen from him improve defensively behind the plate.
Because people gave up on him, Larry. Let's be real. Just the Twitter and the streets, they kind of gave up on young Joey Bart. But I know Edgar Martinez, he's not. But sometimes when he drills a ball, I'm like, that's a nice swing.
Keep him. Because if you trade him or if you moved off of him, that could burn you in a big, bad way, man. He could wind up being a well above average catch and throw catcher who hits 40 home runs. I don't think he's ever going to hit for much of an average, but in today's game, if Joey Bart is somewhere else and he's hitting 40 bombs and hitting 230, that's going to be a painful deal.
Yeah, and I'll say this: two guys that left yesterday, Ruff and Casali. I know they're not household names or stars, but it goes back to what we were talking about last year. Don't cheat them. They came up big. The days Buster had to sit, Kurt held it down, Ruff with the big homers. And I know today you could say, oh, they didn't really lose anything, but I look at them on last year's team, and it wasn't just those two, but they were a big part of the guys that would come up clutch. So everything Gabe touched turned to gold, and now here we are. Out of the second half, I feel like there's a coffin on 3rd and King tomorrow in that day game, and that's assuming. And I'm hoping I'm wrong, Larry. They're going to lose tonight, and if you get swept 4 by your rival after looking just lethargic against the Cubs and Arizona, then what am I sitting here telling? And my line is the math is still there, Mr. Optimistic. But I would be a fool to tell you this team has that look like they can get hot.
I mean, I'm already there. I don't care what happens in this series.
There's too much left in the season.
I know, but it's a wrap.
This.
It's a wrap.
Saran?
It's a wrap on this year. I mean, they're not outrunning the Cardinals and the Phillies. It's a wrap on this year.
They got a flat tire,
It's
Larry.
time to see Elliot Ramos. It's time to play Bart every day. It's time, whatever young player you have, maybe it might be time to promote a Kyle Harrison and take a look in the last couple months.
Why wouldn't you?
I mean, like
September call-ups.
Do some inventory. Do some inventory. Maybe call up a couple of these guys that, the Zapuki or Zwack or Streifler or whatever.
You had a good line. You ordered your jersey, right? Your jersey.
Yeah, I got my Streifler jersey right now. It's coming on Friday. No, but I mean, it's a wrap, man. They're not outrunning these teams, and it's okay. It's okay. You don't win every year in sports. But you have to move your program along. How do they do that? Play Belt, promote Harrison, promote Ramos. You promoted Ramos in April. He hit a couple bolts like 110 miles an hour, and then he was banished to AAA 3 days later, never to be heard from again. Farhan made the point, next time he's up, he'll be here to stay. All right, you know what? You got 2 months of track. Let him play. This kid's got bat speed, he's got power, he's got arm strength. That's already 2 major league tools. I'm looking at guys all over the field for the Giants that are, one tool guys. Like, what would you say you do? I mean, it's almost hard to decipher a strength. So you know what? Ramos, let's see him fail. I want to see him fail. I want to see him afforded the opportunity. Give him 6 weeks, and let's see what he's got. Let's see if he can hit 210 or if it's 130 or, and maybe they're right. And maybe there's a huge hole in his swing and he's going to be, sent packing back to AAA. But let's see him fail. Why? Because he's got power. He's got speed. He's got an arm. You developed him. He was your first round pick. Put him on the field and let's see what he's got. To me, watching him fail would be more exciting than watching Yermín Mercedes circle, the ball in left field when he should be DHing.
I'm just picturing him in left field against the Dodgers.
Right, that was a disaster.
I'll say this, because I could give you like 4 or 5 teams that got young talent. The fans know the state of the union. They know the direction that the team is going. And I'd rather watch youngsters lose knowing it's going to be greater later, or you got a good possibility of it being, than having old, stale guys are going to get hurt at 34 and 35 years old. And that's unfortunately, Larry, what the Giants have become.
Well, let's talk about the Warriors compared to the Warriors. Let's say the Warriors, for whatever reason, had a bunch of injuries and next year didn't go well, and they still had last year's roster. Would you play Bielitsa huge minutes, or would you take the fact that in your down year to throw Kuminga out there?
Yeah.
Would you rather throw Moody and Kuminga out there, or are you going to play Iguodala and Bielitsa tons of minutes? It doesn't make any sense to play those guys tons of minutes. Play your youth, develop your roster, see what you got. I mean, that's what you do when you're not winning, right? And that's what. And yeah, are they mathematically out of it? No. And I'm not saying tank games, but find a couple young players and invest a couple months into them and see what you got. Heck, you might find something. I've seen Giants. There was a year the Giants were really bad, Goo, and they brought up Bill Miller late in the year, and he ripped it. And they discovered this guy who was not really thought of as a prospect, and he became like an everyday guy for them in the following year. They did the same thing with Dan Gladden in the 80s.
Dan the man.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes John Burkett is a good example. Sometimes you're going to give guys opportunities, and they're going to run with it, and they're going to create a career. So let's take, I think we're about that point in the calendar to take a look at some of these young guys and give them a shot.
Yeah, you sound like a lot of fans. I don't disagree, but I don't like what I'm seeing right now. Larry, I'm juiced. In 5 minutes, we got the great Randy Cross, 3-time Super Bowl winner. We'll get to talk to him. And we got a game tomorrow, the Hall of Fame game.
Yes.
And you asked me,
NFL.
Goo, were you excited at watching the game? No, it's just nothing plays better on TV than the game of football. That's just me.
Yep.
So we get to see, the Raiders and Jags, and somebody used the Jags as that comp of having that fluke year to where they went to the AFC Championship game, and then it kind of
Brunell.
Yeah, Brunell, and then it kind of just
somebody said in NFL it happens all the time, worst to first, but I'm not talking worst to first. I'm talking about epic. Giants won 107. They won more games last year than any team in all of baseball, and they're
in its own history.
This year they're like 13 games under 500 since the end of April.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
and that Jag team was Blake Bortles, the one I'm talking about.
Yeah,
we saw that. So
Bortles,
yeah. So Randy Cross, what do you want to get into with him?
Well, I mean, I want to get Randy's thoughts on trying to put together not a makeshift, but a line that includes young Aaron Banks, young Spencer Burford, a lot of question marks on the O-line in a year where you're introducing Trey Lance into the equation. Randy was there when the 49ers transitioned from DeBerg into Montana. So he was there, and he could probably talk about the transition from, Garoppolo to Lance and what a young quarterback needs to gain that confidence. And he's seen it firsthand. So he'd be a perfect guy to ask about it.
He's coming up, Randy Cross. We can't wait. You're listening to Stoddy and Guru. Larry in for Stoddy. We'll be right back on 95.7 The Game.
What are your thoughts on the Orange? Now, back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
We're back, and we got company. We got a big boy here, Larry. Mr. Randy Cross will join us right now, 3-time Super Bowl champ with the Niners, also a college football Hall of Famer, currently football analyst. Randy, welcome to the program, and thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I appreciate it. It's easily kind of my favorite time of the year, that's for sure. We're definitely got the football thing going.
You know what, Randy? I got so many questions. You're right, but the NFL we got breaking news. Deshaun Watson, as you know, he got suspended for 6 games, and the NFL just announced that they're going to appeal that decision. Can you just share with us, and I know I'm kind of blindsiding you here, your thoughts on this whole thing, and do you think Deshaun Watson, after this appeal is over, will see the field this season?
Well, my first impression was kind of like everybody else's, to be honest with you. And the first impressions were kind of doing a side-by-side with some of the other suspensions we've seen, whether it's for PEDs or, drugs or gambling or anything else, and trying to say, okay, which one of these is equitable? Which one of these is kind of, all right, that makes sense. The 6-game thing absolutely made zero sense. It just in the NFL used to be very punitive about behavior things. That's probably why they appealed it, and I would not be surprised if it got significantly higher. And I think that's something that that contract was done for this specific reason. There's a reason he got all that money he got, but he only had $1 million a year salary for this season. They left that alone. They didn't want to mess with it because they knew, it might be a lost year. I think it's a plus for the league, and I think the whole thing so far has been sort of a black eye. And the sooner the better it gets over, especially with the season crawling up on us.
Yeah, I mean, Goodell is, absolutely everybody is keeping their eye on this. I think this is a huge moment for Roger in his career. Randy, let's talk about the things that Niner fans care about, and that's Trey Lance. And you were there when the Niners transitioned from DeBerg to Montana, and now they're transitioning from Garoppolo to Trey Lance, and they're trying to do it with some young players in the interior of that offensive line, especially they may have 2 rookies or essentially rookies. Banks is a second-year guy at the guard spots. What do you think the key is going to be for, to do this and do this well? Because you do have a young quarterback and a young interior O-line.
Well, I ask guys in your division the importance of having a quarterback that has some wheels. Seattle averaged a bad offensive line at times the last few years, and Russell Wilson could make them look better. Murray at Arizona, the same thing. And I think that's something that Trey Lance kind of adds, if he has to the mix, is his ability to escape and run to pass, not necessarily always run to run, because that can get a little dangerous. But the run into pass thing, I think, is something that he's going to be. He'll prove to be really good at that, because these receivers will know how to adjust to him. But yeah, that's going to be a factor. It's good that we're actually getting to football now, is that people are starting to notice those little things. Oh, look at that 7-on-7. Oh, I saw that on Twitter. Yeah, that's cool. But nobody's hitting you. It's easy to complete 90% of your passes. But yeah, that's going to be something it's a challenge, because the transition is every bit of as crazy, I think, as probably maybe even the Joe and Steve thing. In this case, because this is an organization that's been to some Super Bowls of late and hasn't been able to get over that hump. And making this kind of a move, going from a guy that's been to one, that's been to some championship games, and is now you're going to a younger guy. You're doing that specifically, in the context of your postseason. You're doing that to win 1 or 2 more games.
Man, great stuff, Randy, because I was telling Larry, I got some diehard Niner fans, and their old saying was, in your era, when the Niners go to the Super Bowl, Randy, they win. But the last couple of times, not so much. And then also the NFC Championship last year. When you talk about this transition, that started because Kyle Shanahan looked at Trey Lance and said, you know what? He's more dynamic than Jimmy Garoppolo. How much pressure is Kyle putting on himself with this move and the expectations of the train to keep moving down the winning track?
Yeah, I mean, it's all basically on Kyle and John when it comes to this decision and how it works out. It goes with the job, goes with kind of the way they do their job. I'm a fan of those guys, but as a former player, I took a lot of pride in that whole 5-0 thing when it came to Super Bowls. So when that New Orleans game came up and an L finally went up on that side of the board, it was like, ooh, that hurts. I don't like seeing that. And then, the ensuing one didn't feel any better.
Right.
So, that's always going to be the standard. And I understand, Mr. D is not there and a lot of people aren't there, but it's hard to convince the fans that there's any change. And I think that's a great thing because there's a whole bunch of teams in this league that when a season starts, they aren't thinking Super Bowl. They aren't thinking of beating their brains out to try to see how they can win one or two more games. They're trying to beat their brains in to see if they can get a shot at maybe making the tournament. Maybe.
I really have a disdain for camp stats because I've seen it up close and I know that they don't mean a whole lot. But Trey Lance is completing, let's say 44% of his passes thus far coming into today, I think, in camp. And you saw him in a couple games last year. Is that a concern? I mean, and completion percentage, a good one in the NFL is over 70%. Are you at all concerned with a sub 50% completion percentage, even in camp?
No, I'll be shocked, very shocked, if when he gets in the games, he's not somewhere 10 to 15 points above that, at least initially. And in that offense and the way that, Kyle can massage things around by formation and motion and everything else, he's going to make life a little bit easier on Trey. And I think that's a good thing because it's a great thing to get that confidence up to where he can get over 60%. And that's where I think he'll be somewhere in that, just below that or right in that neighborhood from the jump. And then it's a matter of, avoiding some of those situations that quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, can get into is when you kind of guess. And guessing and being a young quarterback is usually not a real good combination.
You're listening to Larry and Guru on 95.7 The Game. We have the pleasure to be joined by three-time Super Bowl champion Randy Cross. Randy, a lot of the reporters are reporting young Brandon Aiyuk is having a great camp. How much of that really is tangible to him having a great season? I'm happy to hear that, but you know what it's like from camp to the real games. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. I part of that is sort of that old coaching saying I'd never confuse activity with progress. And yeah, it's nice. Maybe you're in a little bit better shape and that your off-season goal was to start fast and all that. But this sport especially, as physical as it is a really hard, grueling marathon. So he's smart. He's a heady guy. He knows what's in front of him. But from a confidence standpoint, I think it's fantastic. And the more that he can work with Trey, and the more they can get that sort of symbiotic thing working, and he and Debo and the rest of them and Kittle can sort of work with one brain when they see a defense or they make an adjustment. Whenever Trey is doing that running to pass, how those guys find him and track back to him is going to be go a long way towards that completion percentage being significantly better than, maybe it currently is now. But I mean, heck, if you kept track of the Niners on social media, you'd think he was 95%.
Wow.
I think every pass I see on Twitter and Instagram and the rest of them is completed. I'm shocked it's 45%.
I follow you on Instagram, Randy, and I always love the fact you're always grilling something. You got the smoker going. Seriously, you got a big family, and I love seeing how you'll take pictures of the stages. Here's the meat seasoned, and then here it is after it's cooked, and then here it is after it's sliced. So sometimes I'm looking at your stuff on Instagram, I'm going, man, I'm hungry. I got to go hit Lenardi's. Randy Cross has got me fired up. But I'm so glad we got you here, man, because there was a camp brawl yesterday, and you'd be the perfect person to ask. Give me your camp. Did you ever brawl in camp? And do the coaches deep down, I know they say they don't like it. Do they like it actually? How did Bill respond when you guys would brawl? But is there a camp brawl that you were ever involved in or can remember that sticks out?
Well, we're saying, I know camp's a lot different, so they're not beating the snot out of each other twice a day,
right?
And all that other stuff like we used to. But it's still early in camp. So anytime in that first week, it's really surprising that you get that many sort of alpha types in one little small piece of real estate. You're going to have some serious conflicts going on. And it's always a testament to the control the coaches have and just sort of the way the organization handles things, is when you don't get that much going on from that standpoint. Maybe a part of it's the leadership of the team, but I wouldn't read anything into that because, if you've been working your butt off for 4 months, you're out there, you're hot, you're tired, people are pushing each other. Nah, there should be fights. I'd be worried if there weren't. Your guys aren't reacting. If you don't have a hair trigger after a long practice and you're tired, your shoulders are sore, your legs are sore, everything's bothering you, and some guy pushes you down, you got to go. You get up, go, but don't do anything stupid. Keep the helmet on,
right?
But go ahead and throw down. I'm all for that.
Absolutely. How about one last one? Because Romo supposedly went at Rice a couple times. And I'm just kind of wondering if your memories of Romanowski. He was a young linebacker. You were a veteran probably at that point. But do you remember Romo getting run out of practice in any of those years?
Well, that'd be the second fastest thing to get your butt run out of practice.
Yeah, hit Jerry instead of the quarterback, right?
You mess with the GOAT or mess with Joe. That would get you your walking papers pretty fast to get you a practice off. But no, I think that's great, and I think as a fan, I would read positive things into all this. And I'm still a big fan. I love that football team, and I'm really looking forward to 2022 and it being as good or even close to as good as I think everyone thinks it's going to be, because some years, as we all know, can be a little dicey when it comes to that. But this is going to be a special year for the Niners.
Randy, I was going to let you go, but I got to get this off my chest because I'm getting on my partner's nerve. I know how great of a play caller Kyle Shanahan is. I do. I appreciate him. But I can't get over the loss in that last possession in the Super Bowl where they had everything they wanted on the ground, but he got too cute. Chris Jones took over. So situational play calling is an area that I feel like needs improvement for Kyle. Last year, they're up 10. Jimmy throws a touchdown to Kittle in the third, and yet they don't get it done. They get too cute. So if I tell the great Randy Cross, I'm looking at Kyle Shanahan, his situational play calling, is that fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely fair. I think you guys know this. I live outside of Atlanta now. You think the Falcon fans have forgotten about that play calling and that Super Bowl against the Patriots?
Right.
So, that wasn't, you're not talking about an isolated incident. So once they get back in the playoffs, once they get past the divisional round, once they get back into a conference championship game, all this comes back. And it's, what it is it's a Christmas story. It's a ghost of Christmas past. And it's going to keep coming back year after year after year until you do something different.
Simple as that, really. I mean, it's you're defined in a lot of ways how you play in the biggest games on your schedule, and obviously,
I always explain it the easy way: 28-3. Figure that one out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy, thank you so much. We know you're busy. We appreciate your time. Good luck to you, man.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Thanks, Randy.
Wow. I was going to ask him about the Kyle. I don't know why. I mean, I said that to you, and I think you said, Goo, may not agree, but I kind of get that. But when I say situational play calling with Kyle, you say what?
I say there's several examples where he's gotten pass happy, went away from the run, and did not get the ball. I mean, look at the Rams beat the Niners.
Yesterday you said that.
Rams beat the Niners last year in the playoffs. What did they do on that final drive? They got the ball to Cooper Kupp.
Man, and in the Super Bowl, they got it to Cooper Kupp.
And what have the Niners not been able to do both in the NFC Championship game last year against the Rams and in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs? They could not get the ball to Deebo Samuel in the second half.
Let me ask you this, Larry. Why is it just Deebo, though? Why? This is how much I think of George Kittle.
He's your moneymaker.
But Kittle is not up there. Can he be up there? Is that why they went and changed out and swapped out Jimmy for Trey? Because I get Deebo, but I feel like, damn it, 85 should be up there with Deebo in those moments. You can go to him.
Yeah, but
he is Brent Jones.
No question.
He is Jason Witten.
Yeah, he's got the talent, but good, they need him to stay in and block.
That tell us why.
Because
that bothers me.
Because they couldn't block Leonard Floyd. They couldn't block Aaron Donald. They couldn't block Deshaun Robinson. If you go back to that NFC Championship game against the Rams, Deshaun Robinson dominated up front. They still got Floyd. They still got Donald, and then Robinson brought it, and then Weddle brought it at the line of scrimmage as well. And the Niners could not counter, so they had to keep Kittle in as an extra blocker, partially because he's so spectacular as a blocker.
But
so
he's
that's
not
why he gets negated.
Lineman. That's almost like a dysfunction of your offense. If the line was doing their part, then maybe we could see Kittle along with Deebo get the ball in crunch time, which I think he can handle. We've seen it, but I feel like they're wasting them to a degree.
That was the situation, though. You had Trent Williams. Hey, Trent Williams told us 2 months ago in minicamp. He's like, hey guys, I shouldn't have even been out in the NFC Championship game. I shouldn't have been on the field.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said Colton McKivitz at full speed would have been better at me at whatever percentage I was in that game. So you had a diminished Trent Williams. You got the rest of the line is not stellar. They're going up against the best defensive line at full force, and so I would guess that if they had Kittle in to block, it was just simply because they were getting overwhelmed up front.
I'll tell you this, because I've said it 100 times. If I had $1 for every time I said it, the biggest question mark was Trey Lance for this team going into week 1. How close is the O-line behind that, or would you say it's equal?
It's right there. Yeah, absolutely. The O-line, to me, the big questions for the Niners are the O-line, Trey Lance on offense, the secondary, as far as, how good is their secondary, and Drake Jackson up front, whoever's going to man that spot opposite Bosa, whether it be Ebukam, Drake Jackson, Jordan
Who you're
Willis.
high on, Drake Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I like all the guys they got up front opposite Bosa, but somebody's got a ball. Somebody's got to show up and play. Otherwise, you can put a hell of a rush up front on a quarterback, but if you leave that side door open, guess what? He's slipping out the side door, and Russell did it constantly.
Oh man, he made a career of it.
Yeah,
and that's why I know we're not in Denver. Can you believe he's on another team?
I'm unlimited.
Like Pete Carroll would be gone Russell would never leave. And I'm not saying he's perfect, but damn it, that dude is good at his craft. If people want to say he slipped a little bit, okay, but he would never don another uniform. And I'm telling you, I got big expectations for Denver. Can you believe Carroll and company let him go?
No, I can't, because to me, if there's any quarterback that reminds me of Joe Montana, it's Russell Wilson. As far as escapability, resourcefulness in the pocket, I think he's been brought down by a subpar line, an inconsistent running game, and some just okay receivers, and the defense is not nearly the same. So now he leaves Seattle, he goes to Denver. Denver's got a lot of weapons, man. Javonte Williams, the North Carolina running back, he's good. Albert O, the Missouri tight end, he's good. You got Jerry Jeudy. You got a bunch of receivers.
Man, the run game.
They got a run game.
They got two studs running the ball up in Denver.
Yeah, I think Denver might be better. Might be quite a bit better this year with Russell.
Yeah. So I mean, Randy Cross, he was great, and again, man, I'm excited about week 1. We got football tomorrow. And again, that's just the preseason, and they condensed it. I'm happy. Get rid of it. I don't even know if they said no more preseason games. We're just going to have joint practices. Would you be okay? Because I think the joint practices, honestly, from what I see, are more than this facade that we get to where you got to pay the parking, you got to pay for the nachos and beer, like it's a real game,
and it's full freight.
Man,
you're charging your fans full freight for meaningless games, and there's only one good preseason game, and you're playing 4. How about this? I don't know. I looked at this. How about this? Well, I forget what year it was. It was like 77, 76. The NFL used to play 14 regular season games and 6 preseason games. Think about that.
Yeah, but Larry,
6 preseason games and 14 regular season games.
But those guys are the ones now, and rightfully so, trying to get their money. And why Earl Campbell can't come down from upstairs and CTE, all the stuff that we didn't even know exist. I feel like a lot of that, and again, I know they kind of went, everybody didn't play all 60 minutes in preseason, but that's a whole lot of football. You taught 6 preseason, Larry?
That's ridiculous. They ought to have like 2 preseason games, cut out the other 2, and you got to play some. You got to play some for the evaluators. The pro personnel evaluators need to see something. But you stop sticking it to your fans. Get the Chiefs and the Niners together. Get teams from other conferences that maybe aren't going to be on each other's schedule that year, and let them do the joint practices. The joint practices, I think, work better than the preseason games. You got to have something. You got to have something. You got to have one or the other. You can't have nothing. You got to have either joint practices or some form of preseason games. But yeah, stop sticking it to your fans. Anybody who's got season tickets usually gives those things away. The first and the fourth
parking
preseason games,
free, Larry.
Parking should be free.
If I were president.
But how about this? I mean, you got a ton of people that want to go to NFL games. Cultivate new audiences by giving those tickets to young people or disadvantaged people or whatever. Give those tickets away, because that's what the season ticket holders are doing anyway. They're just doing it on the secondary market. Just eliminate don't stick it to your season ticket holders. Let them, invite new crowds and try to develop a new audience. But that's my thought on the preseason. I'm the guy who actually will watch all the preseason games on the NFL Network, because
that is awesome how they do it.
They'll run a rotation.
right.
So I want to see Dallas. I want to see that,
I love it.
And so I'll watch some of that stuff, but I'm sick. I'm a sick freak compared to the average person. I realize most people don't want to watch preseason at all.
But that's a good obsession you have. That's healthy. Yeah.
Tell my wife.
I got one too. I'll tell you what, and I'm excited. At 2:00, we got the great Will Clark. He'll join us. And when we get back, Larry, we'll get back into the Giants and the deadline, just how you would fix the Giants or what you expect at the end of this season. Because again, I've been waiting on week 1 for football, the Niners. But at the end of the day, people are acting like the Giants got 4 or 5 games left, and they don't. They got a month or 2 to get themselves right. But if this gets ugly and the bottom falls out, I mean, man, a lot of people around here won't be happy. But we'll get into it.
I think you mean uglier.
Yeah. Well, what is it? 5 right now? 4.5, 5.5.
I mean, I don't know about you, but since the All-Star break, I mean, they're Tom Petty free falling.
Yeah, we get into it when we get back right here on 95.7 The Game. Speaking of which, 95.7 The Game, thousands of other stations and millions of podcasts are free on the Odyssey app. Sports talk, music, news, and podcasts are all available completely free. You can catch every Warriors game live on the app, along with the music and news the Bay Area needs. Follow your favorite team, stations, radio shows, and podcasts now by downloading the free Odyssey app.
NL Now, back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
No Steiny today. He is in Canada camping, but he's got the big, from what I hear, Larry, I'm snitching, but it's a good snitch. He's got like the family cabin. Yeah.
It's got the Honda generator.
There you go.
I've been in Canada. I used to scout in Canada, and man, it's humid. If like you're in like Winnipeg, Manitoba or something, it's humid.
Man, you know what? Now when you're going CFL, I never understood why they had the wide field.
You know, and it's amazing. People talk about that all.
I used to watch it back in the day.
That is the main difference, and it opens up the game. It's really it's amazing. I'd love to see like what NBA basketball would look like if they widened the court.
That's
or
interesting.
Widen the lane,
man.
Because how many? I can't
Those
watch an
when
NBA,
the dudes are the bench is right there by the guy.
I can't watch an NBA game without somebody stepping out of bounds.
Yeah. It's just wow.
I mean, how
do you not know that?
I don't remember
know the dudes are tall, Larry, but I get you.
God.
It's I watch WNBA. It happens there. It's like, what? Don't y'all know where the line is at? But I get it.
It's crazy.
But if they added some width, I want to shout out one of we're teammates here at 95.7 The Game. Bonte is in Italy. Him and his beautiful girl on vacation. He checks in on YouTube. So he just threw it. I'm saying hello. So I'm saying hello back to him. Dude, technology is incredible. And you got your thing going with your YouTube.
That's
and you're following.
The Krueg show had it last night. A lot of bitching and complaining about the Giants.
How long do you go?
Anything from a half hour to like 2 hours,
well, you're the
3
PD.
Hours. Yeah, I mean, I go as long as I want.
Right.
I mean, I just go. Usually,
any drops, Larry? Do you have drops? No drops?
Oh yeah, no. I put sound drops and all kinds of music and you know, yeah, we have a good time. Check it out, the Krueg show on YouTube.
Now we did have a loss, and I can't say it enough. R.I.P. to the great Vin Scully. That interview coming up at 5 p.m. on Damon and Ratto, who come on after us. I'm going to listen to it again. He gave Ratto just a great compliment, and Ratto's a legend. You know, I ain't no groupie. Ratto's a legend. I'm going to go talk to him at the break. But with that said, I talked to you about my fetish for uniforms. You got the fetish for watching the games again, which I do too. So I got this little fetish. Vin Scully, to me, was the GOAT of all GOATs in his craft. It was like, again, Larry, he was teaching, talking to you without doing it. And that's the biggest compliment I could get. And I felt like I was right next to him watching the game on the couch, like he was talking to me. You know, elegance, grace, just timing. You talk about letting it breathe. If I quickly asked you your Mount Rushmore of guys that you would sit back, you know, Goo, they can call any game and I'm good, because I think we got one of the same one when you said Vin's on there for me, but Brent Musburger.
Yeah, Brent Musburger.
I mean, my goodness.
To me,
I think people hate on him. The older Brent, though.
Well, I mean,
dude's an icon, Larry.
What are you hating on? He's the guy's awesome.
Okay.
The guy's freaking awesome. NFL Today, he created the studio show.
Irv Cross.
And anywhere you go, you see him. Great moment, Tiger Woods. There's Brent Musburger. Great moment, college basketball.
He can do it all.
Phi Slamma Jamma.
Yeah.
There's Brent Musburger. Jim Valvano, NC State. They upset Phi Slamma Jamma in the pit in New Mexico. Who's there? Brent Musburger.
Dude, he's one of my favorites,
Isaiah had that thing with Bird in the finals, and Isaiah wanted to go on TV and apologize. And who's interviewing him? Brent Musburger. So, I mean, Brent Musburger.
I love him, man.
Brent Musburger's the best. Absolutely the best. And Vin's different. Vin's like regal. But as far as my Mount Rushmore, the one guy who I just love.
I can't wait to hear.
I loved was Harry Callis. The late Harry Callis. Harry Callis, every time the Phillies would come into town, and he would just be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then he'd be like, and there's Mickey Morandini and Dutch Dalton, and he just had the whole thing. And he smoked like a chimney. Yeah. And if you got there at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he'd be up in the booth, and he'd be a couple of smags. He's smoking back and forth. And I remember going, "Hey, Harry, I'd love to sit down with you. Your NFL film stuff, your Philly stuff. I just love your whole thing." He's like, "Absolutely, sit down." And it's like, That sounds more like Boach than my Harry Callis, but Harry Callis was just awesome, man. Just awesome as far as his kindness, his love for Philly, his love for the Eagles, his love for the Phillies, NFL films.
That's dope. He was
Harry
great
Callis.
I ain't mad at that one.
I could listen. I mean, you know the old saying, I could listen to that guy read the phone book. I could actually listen to Harry Callis read the phone book. That's how good he was.
You know what? Speaking of which, we have, I believe, the grocery list of Vin Scully. This is incredible. I mean, to hear a guy name off what you're about to go get. Have you heard this one?
No.
At the supermarket. It's just, it's presidential. The guys are going to get it here shortly, but I like that one, Callis.
The other one, Jerry Coleman. I love Jerry Coleman. The late Jerry Coleman, who's a San Franciscan. I went to Lowell, played with DiMaggio. Just when the Padres used to roll in, and this guy was a teammate at DiMaggio. This guy played on some great Yankee teams. He was front and center, and just talking to him about old San Francisco, because my grandparents grew up here and my dad grew up here, and it's like, as a native, it's like hearing Jerry Coleman talk about San Francisco was really incredible for me. And then he was just, he hang a star on that one, and just there was just such a class about some of these older broadcasters. I'll say this, Goo, I had more of a thrill interviewing Jerry Coleman, Vin Scully, Harry Callis than I would interviewing athletes, because I'm not sure why, but I just really always had such great affinity for the best announcers, the guys who really made an impact. And I guess the other one that I would throw in there, because I thought he was underrated, was Hank Greenwald. I mean, he was
everybody.
Hank Greenwald was a tremendous Giants announcer for years and years. And like his call when the Giants, we're gonna have Will Clark on tonight or today.
Yeah, 2
o'clock, about 20 minutes from now. 27 years of waiting have come to an end. The Giants have won the pennant. I mean, when I hear that call, I get goosebumps to this day, every single time. Wow. That's what, to me, that moment, the way that Hank Greenwald, encapsulated that moment was just spectacular.
I got something for you. And again, you just mentioned it. Will Clark, the thrill, at 2 p.m. joining us right here on 95.7 The Game. Sterling, let's hear the great Vin Scully read this list to you.
Sure, Andy, I'd be happy to. Well, let's see. We've got a dozen eggs, a quart of milk, a loaf of bread, a can of frozen orange juice, 6 small white onions, a green pepper, garlic powder, a package of American cheese, pickles, kosher that is, bananas, cornflakes, maple syrup, toothpaste, paper towels, toilet paper, 6 bars of soap, hot dogs, quarter pound of chopped meat, steak, lamb chops, package of spaghetti, 3 apples, bologna, cottage cheese, a pound of butter, 2 ears of corn, beer, ketchup, peanut butter, soy sauce, and a half a pound of coffee.
His cadence was second to none.
Oh, the best.
But that's just who he was.
And Ned Clutty said to me in a text today, I said,
incredible.
Ned, Ned bid on, Vin auctioned off a number of his favorite items, and Ned won the bid on Vin's golf clubs. So he's got Vin's golf clubs.
Come on.
But I said, so he sent me this text and he's telling me all about all these anecdotes about Vin. And he said that when Ned's daughter got married, he had Vin introduce the wedding party at the wedding.
Now that's incredible.
Now that's cool.
Yeah,
that is really cool.
Man.
And I know people that have called John Miller and said, John, would you do my answering machine?
Great John Miller,
Yeah, would you do my answering machine message? And I kind of hold John in that same category. He's just an all-time great. I mean, I'm just glad that we have John and have had him for years. And he's just another one of those iconic voices that you could listen to. Just the best compliment almost anybody can say to guys like us, or even guys like them.
Give it to me.
You're an easy listen.
Wow.
When someone says, hey, you're an easy listen, all these guys, Vin, Callis, John Miller, they're all easy listens. Like you're listening, and it's like you don't even realize how much you're enjoying it.
I want you, and I know you can't grade fill-ins or whatnot, but you shared your 4. So the 2 for me were Vin, Brent, Bill King. I mean, the dude did it all. I remember listening to Raider games against the Chargers as a young kid in the garage. Pops listening. I'm named after Daryle LaMonica.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, the Mad Bomber.
Right, yeah. I was like, Pop,
So
why not
you the
Malcolm
Mad
X
Guru?
or Martin Luther King? But he liked the sports. But it's all good. So Bill King, and then I'm going to throw this one in, and you tell me, if you're like, ooh, I don't know. Joe Buck. So many people hate on Joe Buck. dude's great, and he does it all, man.
He is great. People push back because he did some Giants-Cardinals stuff, and Jack Buck was synonymous with the Cardinals, and I think people kind of felt Joe's affinity for the Cardinals bleeding through the broadcast, and they pushed back aggressively against it. But no, Joe's really good.
Right.
Bill King, though.
Oh, my God.
I'm sitting in Oakland at an A's game. This is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, talking to Ken Korak on the bench in the 90s.
The great Ken Korak.
And Bill King walked up, and I'm like, oh, Ken, that's Bill King. He's like, oh, you haven't met Bill? And I'm like, no, I haven't met Bill. And he's like, Bill, come over here. I want somebody I want to introduce you to. I seriously, it's one of the highlights of my life. He comes over. He's like, oh, how you doing? And he goes, how you doing, young man? And Ken Korak goes, Bill, this is Larry Krueger. And he's like, Larry, I listen to you every night driving home because I'm doing Sports Phone 680 at the time.
Come on, man.
Right?
Yeah.
My jaw just dropped. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
He's like, no, last night you had this guy on and you were talking about this. And it floored me because I, as a little kid, used to listen to Warriors games on my transistor in my bedroom in the Sunset District, listening to Bill King. Bill King's great on everything. Was great on everything. He was spectacular on the Warriors. Oh my God, I can't even explain it. You'd almost have to go hear it. He was the best basketball radio announcer I have ever heard. The game's incredibly fast, and Bill King did it beautifully. It was unbelievable. And I said to him,
he listens to you every night.
There's so many nights I sat there as a little boy listening to your Warrior broadcast in the late 70s, falling asleep to your voice. And the fact that you've told me that you're listening to me driving home from some of these A's games, I go, it's the greatest compliment everyone's ever given me. And he sat down with me for like a half hour. We did an interview. I had him on the show. We became friends.
That's dope.
Bill King.
And I just had this conversation not even started, you wouldn't even been able to share that, and you say that he listens to you driving home.
I got old stories.
The power of the media.
I got old stories.
But I'm excited about Will Clark too. But we got some people on the line that want to talk too. Let's go out to Fairfield and talk to Steve. He has a Bill King story. What's up,
guys?
Steve?
I was on hold before Bill King was mentioned, and Krueger, you're right on it. I mean, Bill King doing the Raider games, the excitement and everything, and the Holy Toledo and all that. But Krueger, I'm 56, and I've been a lifetime Warrior fan. You nailed it. I would sit and listen to every single Warrior game on the transistor radio, and they weren't that good.
Right.
Because Bill King had the ability to tell you exactly where every player was on the court in real time. Most play-by-play announcers can't keep up with it. He was amazing.
He was amazing on a game that's fast. He was up to it every night. He painted a picture. You could literally close your eyes. You could see the entire floor. Yeah, he was spectacular. And I would encourage anybody, go listen, go dig it up and listen, and you'll be amazed at how much this guy put into an NBA broadcast.
That's dope. And like I said, they are not. I sold announcers short. Saying they're icing on the cake. They are just important as the players to me, because when you got the top of the cream of the crop and you got a good game, I just step back. Let's go out to Berkeley and welcome Shaka to the program. What's up, Shaka?
Hey, man, how you doing, man? How you doing?
Up here giving love to these announcers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, man, just growing up in the Bay, man, I was talking about, man, but first I had to go back to the beginning, man, and right. Bill King was outstanding, man. He did everything. He did baseball when the A's were good. They won 3 championships in the 70s. I know he did the Raiders, man. Me being a Vikings fan back in 76, the agony, man, because he run a stake in your heart when Willie Brown got that interception, man.
Down the sidelines. Yep.
Yeah, we just fantastic, threw him the ball. We trying to make a late comeback. It was like, I had to go to school on that, man. 11 years old, man. Also, and I want to talk about John Madden, but also my announcer for my team, Paul Allen. I had a chance to meet him too, coming out when we down the Chargers moved to LA, so we went down there on a victory, and I took a picture with him and everything. It's Paul Allen, but the John Madden, man, is when you look at announcing and somehow he made the game so fun. A bing, a boom, and then John Madden just took over it, and it's just a testament, man, to the Bay Area, man, all the great coaches and announcers that we had.
Yep.
Awesome.
We've been blessed, man.
Yeah.
We've been blessed. We've been blessed to have some of the best.
No doubt.
And Bill King and Madden, thinks it's over. Get your big butt out of here.
And we got with the Giants right now, Krueg and Kite.
I mean, yeah, and Flem. I mean, Dave's incredible.
And Miller, as you mentioned earlier.
I think the Giants. I think Dave's might become my favorite on college football.
Dude, man, the Thursday night games he's doing, like Friday night.
It's awesome.
And when you can do, I don't want to say all of them, but yeah, like you just mentioned, Bill doing the Warriors. Like I'm getting goosebumps.
Bill was really good on the A's. He was phenomenal on the Raiders. But anybody who really heard him do the Warriors knows that he was the man.
Yeah,
he was the man. And not only that, he was cool. He's like, some guys, I don't know, some of these guys have great voices, and then you don't know what kind of if they're cool guys or not. Bill's cool.
A real one.
Bill was really cool.
And he gave you that love. He didn't have to. Some people would have kept that to themselves.
Yeah.
Let's go out to the town and welcome Jose to the program. Thanks for waiting, Jose.
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. I'm just going to make 2 quick points on 2 of my favorite teams, the Niners and the Giants. I know we're talking about announcers. By the way, my favorite announcer would be on the NFL, Pat Summerall.
Wow.
I got him almost at the end of his career, but he was really, really good.
Nobody did starting lineups.
Touchdown Rice.
And the New York Giants of Banks, Carson, Reasons. And I mean, the guy, I could listen to Pat Summerall introduce. I mean, his lineups at the beginning of football games were phenomenal.
Really good. Now, going straight to the Niners, you were discussing situational play calling. You know what? I love the fact that we have Kyle Shanahan as the quarterback, as a coach for the 49ers, but honestly, I hate to say it, but I'm one play of game short of actually comparing him to Marty Schottenheimer. Great head coach, but when it comes to the playoffs, for some reason, he always found a way to trip all over himself, almost at the end of the game. And as far as the Giants, it's getting very discouraging, the lack of definition as to what the strategy is. Because if they're thinking about rebuilding through the draft, you think about it. I mean, the average age of the AAA prospects is 28 years old and up. I mean, most of the teams, those guys are already been playing, in the majors for about 5-6 years already. Helio Ramos, he started with the Giants when he was 18. He's about 28 now, I believe, and he's still not on the major league. So something is going on there. As far as Farhan, I think he should have taken a chance and trade Logan and Carlos Rodon for prospects. Really good prospects that he could actually start building, a farm system. Right now, they're number 12. That's middle of the pack. That's just not good enough to trade for somebody for a 23-year-old like Soto. So I don't
appreciate the phone call. So
yeah, I mean,
Farhan tried though. Until we get intel that he didn't,
I don't care about trying.
If I got a broken down Pinto and I want to sell my car, I can't disguise it as a Ferrari. All I can try to do is say I got a broke down Pinto. This is what you know what I mean. What could he give?
When I was in the Canadian League, I used to work for this defensive coordinator, and if I ever said, Coach, I tried, he'd be like, Larry, don't try. Get her done.
Wow.
Get her done. Get her done. And there's something to be said for that, man. Trying is nice. Get it done.
Yeah, and right now the Giants are getting it done, and they got 2 more, not 1 more with the die. It's bad when you want a team out of town because you're afraid of them. I'm not saying they are, but I am because I'm looking at their record like, Larry, they're hemorrhaging right now. And then 6-5, you come at 6-0, you show some life. Now, am I nitpicking when I say some of those balls the Giants hit to get outside of Bart? He smoked that ball. How can you not be? That's the guy I say, I don't even want to look at his average. There's something there's something positive. The arrow's pointing up for him.
Just play him.
Anytime
I look down at that lineup and if I see Austin Wins instead of Joey Bart,
go ahead.
I mean, I say words that I can't say on the radio because I'm just so outraged. I mean, Austin Wins is a minor league player, and you got Joey Bart, who's got a ton of power, and he needs ABs. Don't sit him for Austin Wins.
2017, the Giants were 64-98. Following year, 18, 73 and 89, 19, 77 and 85. 2020, the shortened season, 29-31, and then bam, out of nowhere, the 30 for 30 that I'm gonna pitch, 107-55, and then here we are right back this year, Larry, to where, I mean, I just knew they were going to be at least the second or third wild card. You don't get it done this year. Just the wild card to follow up the 107, and I think it's you, Dibbs, or Willard, who doesn't like the word fluke, but I think we can safely say now we are on that road to just put last year away. That was just a fluke.
I mean, it
has to be, Larry.
It was the ultimate in smoke and mirrors.
Wow.
The ultimate. And also, you know what it really is? It was a testament to the greatness of Buster Posey. Let's be honest about that. Buster Posey controlled it all.
I'm giving him
pitching,
more flowers.
defense,
Man.
offense. Buster
in the
Posey,
clubhouse, maybe.
Buster Posey was one of those guys that was better than his stats. And this year is you were getting a full dose of that because you took away Buster. Now, Bryant, but you only had Bryant for a short amount of time.
Right.
Donnie Barrels, he was good, but nothing great. The big difference between last year and this year is Buster Posey.
And look nowhere but the bullpen.
Yeah.
Maybe that has something to do with it too. When you talk about
and then the bullpen for sure. But I mean, Buster
him
Posey.
calling the pitches too.
And also just he had credibility with the umps. So he got corner pitches. He shut down the run game. He managed the game perfectly, brought the young pitching staff along, bought into the new coaching staff and their new analytics approach. And, the guy was a spectacular player. He was better. It's like if nobody had ever seen Buster Posey, you're trying to explain to him, you wouldn't explain to him the greatness of Buster by reciting stats. You would say, you know what? I could read you the stats, but this guy was better than the stats.
No doubt, Larry. Will Clark coming up in 10 minutes. You are correct. And forget the pictures. The question I'm about to ask you can't be answered with Webb or Rodon. The best player that the Giants have right now, position player.
The best player?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about the Giants this year is not that they're so bad; it's that they're so dull. I mean, it's a relatively dull
who's
product.
the best player?
Who's the best
Not
player?
even this season. Who's the best player on that team right now?
I would say.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, Luis Gonzalez has had a good year.
But he's not the best player.
I mean, Brandon Belt, maybe Crawford. I'd probably still say Crawford. I mean, if you put Crawford in the World Series, he'd play the hell out of shortstop. He'd still give you great at-bats.
Win healthy.
No, I know, but I mean, this guy's 35. He's played shortstop. He's had a great career. Brandon Crawford is the best player on their team, I think.
No, there's no wrong answer. The whole thing was the pause.
Who would you go with?
I was going to say yes.
Okay, he's had a little bit of a bounce back.
He can run. He can hit for occasional power, play you a good outfield.
Yeah.
But I don't feel good about that answer because I just told you that he ain't going to be roaming in a perfect world. He won't be roaming right field for the next 3 to 5 years.
All I got to say is when there's a pop-up anywhere in the middle of the diamond, when Crawford's on the field, everybody defers to Crawford.
Okay.
If it's in left, it's his ball. If it's between short and third, it's his ball. If it's between second and short, it's his ball. If it's between shortstop and center field, it's his ball. I mean, to me, I got to give it up to Crawford.
And how do you explain their slippage in defense? Because I don't care what pro sport we're talking about, defense wins championships. And this was their staple. And that's why I'm like, we haven't mentioned Gabe at all today, but you set the tone. We'll talk to Will coming up here at 2:00, but how do you explain how they have just regressed?
I think it's
so
easy.
Bad.
I think that's easy to explain. Crawford's been hurt. No Posey. Belt and Longoria have been hurt. And they stupidly traded their best defensive center fielder in a ballpark with a massive center field and in Steven Duggar, and they're leaning on Austin Slater. And I've been told time and time again, Austin Slater's a great center fielder. Austin Slater's not even a center fielder at all. He's a converted second baseman who's trying hard, giving you his best. But he ain't a natural center fielder. Steven Duggar, letting Duggar go, trading him for Willie Calhoun was just beyond stupid because you left yourself with if you have a big time center fielder defensively, that helps. Then you can play Darren Ruff. Then you can play Jock Peterson with a few extra LBs. Then you can drop in a Your Mean Mercedes. But if you don't have that guy who can go get it in center,
oh man,
that makes the entire to me the most underrated aspect of quality baseball is outfield defense.
Yeah,
because there's not really a lot of stats that people use that much for outfield
Orioles
defense.
got the best to me. People would know that.
Outfield defense is super underrated. When you have a great outfield defense, you don't notice it necessarily. But when you have a bad outfield defense, man,
like Mercedes in left field that day,
at
and
Dodger
even
Stadium.
I've seen Slater misjudge balls.
Last night.
Twitter, and Twitter the other night there was a home run. They went in on just his attempt to try to. I thought he had it though. But
the ball was over
I'm
the
like,
wall.
Y'all being extra harsh now.
He put his. I mean, don't get me going.
Right.
He put his glove 3 feet beneath the outfield wall, and the ball was over the wall. So how you gonna catch that? Now, granted, it's a tough play. It would have been a spectacular play, but I'm just saying.
So none of this on game.
Slater's
huh?
stopgap center. He's not He's not like, oh, that's your center fielder.
Tell them that.
No, that's a second baseman who's now playing center field.
Yeah, and you got away with it last year.
You got away with it last
30
year.
for 30.
And if you erode your defense up the middle, that's where you notice.
And I'll say this: you talked about Crawford being 35. I'm not gonna, dude. You got to stay healthy. You got to work on your body. But the best ability is availability. Coming up next, it's the great Will Clark. He joins us right here on Steiny and Guru. Larry in for Steiny right here on 95.7 The Game.
What are your thoughts on the orange and black?
This is Ben in Berkeley. What do you think the Giants?
to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
High drive into deep right field. It is a grand slam home run. Will Clark, one of the great hitters in the National League, one of the great hitters in baseball, has a double and 2 home runs, one of them a grand slam. And that has broken it wide open. The Giants 8 and the Cubs 3.
Wow, I remember that like it was yesterday, Larry. And we got the great number 22 on the phone. Thank you so much, Will, for joining us. I know you're busy. How are you?
Doing great, guys. How about y'all?
No, doing great.
We got the news last night, the unfortunate news, Will, of the passing of the great Vin Scully. When you heard the news, can you kind of share with us your initial thoughts?
The first thing I thought about when I heard about Vin was just the fact that what a unbelievable human being. I mean, not only for the game of baseball, but the game of life. And, he was there for so many unbelievable moments in the game of baseball, whether it was with the Dodgers or as you heard in that call right there in '89, whether it was us and the Cubs, for what that man did for the sport and the gentleman that he was away from the field, it was absolutely a heartfelt loss.
Absolutely. Man, Saturday night was magical, Will. I'll speak for the entire Bay Area just by saying we love you, brother. I mean, and that was incredible. And I just want your thoughts on, now you've had a couple days to kind of breathe a little bit, sit back with your fam and kind of break it all down. What was Saturday night like for you?
Saturday was so special because, it had been, 2 years in coming. I had prepared extremely well for it. And I was just so ready just to get the ceremony going. And, when, up there looking at my teammates and Mike Krueger, when he started almost breaking down, I'm like, I got to keep it together here. And, but once I got out on the field, it was like being in the batter's box. Like, all right, this is, I'm ready. Let's roll. And, the whole point of, my speech was, I was put in a position to do things because of my teammates, because of the fans, because of the city that I played in, all that sort of stuff. And I wanted to bring everybody along for that ride.
Will, let me ask you this, because back to Saturday, and Larry was right. It was emotional. And for me, I didn't even know how heavy it was going to get. But to see, the fire you still had, the love that the fans had for you, and I'm seeing you embrace Barry right now. I'm like, that's the fire I want to see from the 2022 Giants. And Will, I don't see that from the players or the managers. Is that a fair criticism? I want that back.
Put it this way. I'm not going to disagree, shall we say.
Okay.
My big thing, was when I'm out there on the field and something good happens, something bad happens, whatever, the fans that are in the stands want to see that, hey, look, you care. And for me personally, I'm all about, the enthusiasm and showing emotions and all that. So you'll never, ever hear me say, no, I want less. No, I actually want more. I want somebody to wear it on the sleeve. I want to know that they care.
Hearing Joey Bart do an interview, he's like, man, Will's my guy. And he's so invested. You're invested in these guys, but they're also invested in you. And I know you spent time as a roving instructor with the Giants. I know your schedule's busy and you got a beautiful family. And I'm not speaking about the Giants situation in particular. It's more of a general question. Could you ever manage in the big leagues? I know you could do it, but is that part of could you do that job? Would you ever want to do that job?
I could do it, but I'm also not that guy that's going to consistently pat you on the back when you're screwing up.
Right.
If you're screwing up, I'm going to tell you, you're screwing up, and I'm going to be all up in your grill. And, some of these guys now can't take that constructive criticism. I'm flat out being serious. And, they would cower away instead of stepping up. And I was very prideful in the fact that Matt Williams, Robert Thompson, Kevin Mitchell, Barry Bonds, you name all the names, these guys stepped up. They stepped up. And they wanted to be there, and they were willing to take the constructive criticism that came with it. And that's why we won.
You're listening to Larry and Guru on 95.7 The Game. We're joined by the great Will Clark. Will, I got to ask you this because I understand losing 8-1 and maybe you don't got the most talent, but when a team consistently night in, night out is kicking the ball around or misjudging the ball, to me, that's not okay. What message does that send to you when you watch this Giant team just not able to field after winning 107 games just last year?
You know, one of the things that people don't quite understand. You know, you're losing Buster. Crawford's hurt. Had veterans at second and center field. So we were really strong up the middle. Right now, with Crawford being out, and then we had injuries to our catching staff. You're switching guys around. Guys who are new to the organization. It puts a little pressure on the guys. And one of the things that I want to see, and I definitely want to see this as far as a player, as far as an instructor, is I want to see guys come out and work. And when you come out and take like 10 ground balls, 15 ground balls, or whatever, that to me is not acceptable. And so, hey, look, baseball is tough. It is really tough. Don't get me wrong. But, if you work at the craft, you keep working at the craft, and then all of a sudden out of the clear blue, you get really comfortable out there, good things start to happen. When you don't work at the craft, you're this game right here, the baseball guys will fuse up.
You brought an intensity. I was trying to describe it to Goo, the intensity of Will Clark as a young player, and we saw it. 85 was a disaster. 86 was a totally different vibe, and you and Robbie on the right side of that diamond were a big part of that. That intensity can rub people wrong. And sometimes I would imagine you had players who push back. There was an awful lot written about your relationship with Kevin Mitchell, your relationship with the Hack Man, and yet they were there Saturday night, and they showed their love for you. Maybe you could talk to us, Will, about how your relationship with those two guys evolved through the years.
Well, I mean, Hackman was my mentor, one of my mentors my rookie year, and you got to go through the rookie agent, and he was tough. I mean, and needless to say, after a little while, you get tired of it and, it fought back a little bit. But since then, you come to appreciate, and I even said it in my speech, there were several people out there with tough love. And that's how I grew up. And that's how I got to be the man I am. That's how I got to be a guy, that wanted to be in that situation. Kevin Mitchell and I, we never had a crossword in our life. He and I were freaking two peas in a pod. The Boogie Bear and I were in the middle of the lineup, and we both wanted to be there.
Just to follow up on the Boogie Bear, because that was his nickname. Will, I got to ask you about, because you referenced it, and I said to my kid, I said he referenced it because he was that freaking special. You referenced Mitch's 89 season. That season, I mean, I've seen Barry do incredible stuff. Griffey Jr. do incredible stuff. A lot of great hitters. I mean, we watched Miggy Cabrera win the Triple Crown. I don't think I ever saw a better season than Mitchell in 89. Everything off his bat was loud. His outs were line drives to third base, to the third baseman or shortstop or left fielder. I mean, he was absolutely incredible that year. What was it like for you to watch it? And as a hitter, and as a guy who's made his life about hitting, describe for those who didn't see it what 89 Mitchell was really about.
Oh, my God. So Kevin Mitchell, needless to say, he was number 4 hole hitter. I was 3. He had 47 homers that year, 127 RBIs, and basically, from day one. And for me personally, I had over 420 on base percentage that year. So I was on base a lot, and I got a chance to see it not only out on the field, but the dugout or whatever. And when we see seasons like that, you're like, oh my God, how good was that guy? And, it really was a lot of fun being in the lineup. Because he said he fed off of me. It was vice versa. I'm like, hey, look, big boy, I am getting on base for you because you are the man right now. And so that was the way we went about our job.
It's Larry and Guru on 95.7 The Game, joined by the great number 22, Will Clark. Will, I'm a 70s baby, and I told Larry this. I love the game. I feel like it's betrayed me in this sense. I'll never leave it. The runner on second in extra innings. There's nothing more prestigious in sports to me than first base. The three true outcomes, guys starting in lineups, batting 150, 180. It's littered around the league. When you watch your game now, Will, the Will I think I know, do you like it?
Let's just say it's a very watered bird. You know, I mean, the stuff that we did, I mean, the stuff thick skin and, you know, I mean, the stuff you had to do where you had to be a man and step up. That's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit. They have, let's just call it baby-fied the game. You know, going into second base, you know, you gotta go in perfectly. You can't go and break up. You know, you can't get a home plate and hit a catcher. You know, it's like, Jesus Christ, if I gotta run 90 feet, I'm gonna hit somebody. You know, come on, give me a break. I mean, they are diluting this game. The game that, you know, our forefathers brought us. I mean, the game that Willie Mays, Rudy McCovey, Orlando Cepeda, Juan Nash, Lord Perry, that handed it down to my generation. Now I'm trying to hand it down to this baby-fied group. No, sorry, it ain't happening.
Wow. One of my favorite moments. First of all, I love the Giants rivalries in the 80s were incredible, but the Giants and Cardinals had a great one. And it wasn't just the players. It was Whitey and Roger Craig, and Roger called so many great pitch outs, and they were some incredible doubleheaders where you guys just shut down the Cardinal vaunted running game. But I got to ask you about the play in St. Louis. You're going in that second,
awesome.
and Akendo. I mean, I didn't realize watching that video again what a punk Akendo was. My goodness. You slid in there, he kicks you, then he hits you in the head, and it was on, man. And my proudest moment as a Giants fan was watching Maldonado. I don't think he ever got from first to second faster than he did right then, and he just dropped Ozzie. Tell me your thoughts of that moment, and have you ever talked to either Candy about it or Akendo or Ozzie about it?
So, you know, later in my career, I went over to St. Louis, and you know, Akendo was my third base coach, and he and I went and had beers, and we laughed and giggled, cut up, and it's just, hey, boys being boys, playing hard, playing the game hard. All that stuff, believe it or not, started from the night before. There was some issues that we had with some guys from the night before. We didn't take care of the job on the field, so I said, well, shit, I'm gonna go take care of the job, and you know, going down there, you know, like I said before, if I got to run 90 feet, I'm going to hit somebody. So here we go. Game on. And then, you know, I get clapped or whatever it was on the ground. It's like, Here we go. Here we go, big boy. Way uppercut right inside your nose.
We'll get you out of here on this one. I know you're busy. Every time I get the opportunity to talk to a former big leaguer, you know, a position player, I say, you remember your first home run? And yours was off the great Nolan Ryan. Talk to us about that.
Talk to you about it. How do you expound on that fairy tale? You walk up to home plate and there's Nolan Ryan out on the mound. 3 pitches later, you're taking keepers out of center field in the Astrodome. How do you expound on that other than, good Lord, it doesn't get any better now? How about starting off a big league career like that? How about that fairy tale start? And, you know, I can tell you about all the things that went into that at bat. You know, it's a long story, but it was just the fact that, you know, get put out of the plate. And once in my career, you get a pitch out over the plate, and it's like, thank God I didn't miss it.
Yeah. Who did you point to there? Was that Pops in the stands that night? Who were you pointing to right there when you came around?
I had, good Lord, 67 or 80 people in the stands.
Wow.
You know, and every time my family was in the stands, I made sure I pointed to them. So.
That is very, very
hey,
cool.
Will, we know you're busy. Thank you so much for joining us, man. We hope to see you at the yard coming soon.
Yeah, no, I'm standing in the middle of the ballpark right now. I'm watching the Dodgers do a inner squad game.
Will, can you get in the lineup?
Yeah, seriously. We could use your bat.
Put it this way. You guys have seen some of the videos. I can still swing a baseball bat.
I saw you hit one of the China base. Did you see that?
The problem is getting down to first base.
Thanks a lot, Will.
Congrats again, Will.
Yeah. You got it. Y'all have a good one.
That you know what it is? It's just when he's
man.
real. You know, that was raw right there. And he don't like what he's seeing, just with the game in general. We'll get to that. But that fire is what they need.
I'd love to see him manage.
Right.
I would love to see him manage.
How long you been thinking that? That's a big Dude.
Well, here's the thing. Will hit 345 in 2000 with St. Louis. That was his final year.
Right.
Who hits 345 and retires?
Why did you retire?
Well,
right. Yeah.
He's got his son Trey had autism or has autism. He wanted to be home. He wanted to be more present for his family. I respect the hell out of that. I'm a family guy. I got 4 kids. I respect the hell out of that. But he walked away with, there was still meat on that bone. He could have kept playing. And I always wondered, maybe the commitment time-wise is too much for him, but it sounds like it's not too much for him, and that it's really more about, would his personality and tough love, would it be a positive? Would it be viewed as a positive by today's players? I think they would. I think this guy's been there and done it, and they would respect him. I would love to see the Giants. Now, granted, Kapler, they won 107 last year, but I'd like to see the Giants leave Farhan in power and replace Kapler with a guy like Will Clark and replace Bailey with a guy like Vogelsong and bring back some fire to the organization. Still use your analytics. Still, I'm not saying don't go with the analytics. Go with the analytics, but have some fire with your pitching coach and your manager.
I love it, man.
So the Giants right now just are so dead. And when you hear Kapler interviewed in these post-game media roundtables, everybody's so tight as a drum. And I just think that Will and Vogelsong would provide a fire and a looseness and a fun and an energy that I think would be infectious. It probably can't happen, but that would be my choice.
Larry, and I saw your tweet a couple nights ago about that, and I was like, lights out. I was falling asleep. I said, I'm not mad, and I'll never apologize. Oh, you're too loud for fire. But especially when it comes to pro ball, and you got me thinking about Akendo and Ozzie Smith and that slide into second. That's who Will was. And again, I'm not advocating flipping over a spread every night, but it's too tame. Going third and king to me, and it starts with Kapler. And you didn't have to use anything in your your Batman utility belt last year because it took care of itself. And I'll give you some credit. But when you're hemorrhaging, you're not fielding, and you got dudes overthrowing the cutoff nightly, allowing runners to advance, Will wouldn't play that. And that's all I want, like accountability. And don't be afraid to say
sick of it.
Yeah, JD, tell him.
You know who who Will kind of reminds me of when I think about what his managing style would be like?
Billy Martin.
I was going to say Draymond Green.
That's all still a thumbs up.
I mean, do you think Draymond Green would be a good coach? I think Draymond Green would be a freaking awesome coach.
Incredible.
And do you want him to bring that fire? Of course you want him to bring that fire.
Man.
Could the players handle Draymond's fire? Could the players handle Will Clark's fire?
When did that become a question? I know our world's changed, even as parents. I could tell you some stories how I got disciplined. You can't do that nowadays. There's an 800 number. So everything is, we label everything, even how you talk to people. So I'm wondering, I never thought, Larry, in a million years, that would go to sports too, because it seems like it has, and Will said it.
The wussification of America.
And there we go. Man.
But seriously, I think Draymond Green can and will someday be an elite NBA head coach if he wants to be. And I think Will Clark can and will be an elite manager, hopefully for the Giants at some point. I think he can do the job. I think he's at a point in life where he's ready to commit the time to it. The question that he brought up is, well, yeah, the kids are a little bit more grown. I think he's probably got more time, but could the players handle it? Could the players handle Will Clark getting in their grill? Ted Williams was one of the best hitters of all time. He was a colossal failure as a manager with the Washington Senators. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes the guys who can, do it can't necessarily coach it or manage it. I think Will could. I think he would be in some ways, a perfect complement to Farhan and a front office that's pushing an analytic approach to then have that fire in the dugout with the analytic approach. Use those analytics, but let's bring back some of that fire, some of that intensity. I think it's lacking.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll tell you this, he's pretty much biting his tongue because he was candid with us without saying everything about what he's seeing with the bad defense and the lack of fire. But again, Larry, you might be like, and the people listening, who the hell are you, guru, to say that? I saw a guy, I'm talking about Gabe Kapler in Philly, where to me, they weren't analytical driven. It was about the people skills. And for whatever reason, in 2 seasons with a pretty good team, Gabe was ran out of there. So my thing is, you come here, and if it's all true and the whispers are Farhan needs a guy that'll accept the spreadsheet, that can take you so far. But when you need to tap into, you need to get your ass in gear, that type of stuff. I saw Saturday Gabe just looking like a mummy. And this is not personal. There was no infectious to it. Dude, you're next to Bruce. Show me something. And even in that setting, he was a mute. I didn't like it, Larry. And people go, what are you talking about? But I was like, that's not my manager I want.
I need a manager that can manage even in the middle of a power outage. Okay. And I mean, if there's a power outage and the Tandy 5000 goes down, who the hell's going to pinch hit? If we don't have the computer spit out who to play, how do we know who to play? And I'm joking, being facetious, but at the same time, I see Kapler with this strict adherence to lefty-righty matchups, and the Giants' belief now.
I forgot to ask Will that.
Let's just, you know what? We're going to play the odds, and we'll play it out over 162, and we'll live with the results. Use your gut. You've been in the game for decades.
Trust.
Yeah, seriously, but you've got experience. You've got intuition. You've got wisdom. You're supposed to have wisdom. Use it. I need more than just the computer printout.
I'm with Larry. And again, you were at the game that I remember Belt had 3 hits and he was going up for the 4th at bat and they called him back. Where's the trust? He earned that. He's Brandon Belt, first of all, but he earned that 4th at bat. And again, I guess it goes to a lack of trust on let your dude's hot. Let me let you keep going.
Right. Well, I mean, we saw it a couple of years ago with Kevin Cash and Blake Snell in Game 7 of the World Series.
That's a good one.
The guy's in an absolute cruise control, and you yank in your ace in Game 7, and you lost. You know what I mean? You lost. Why did he pull him? Because it was a strict adherence to certain analytics. It wasn't like, hey, you know what? It was like 3rd time through the rotation. This is his ERA. Yeah. Instead of, hey, by the way, the 3 guys that he's facing in the 9th inning, if you let him pitch, we're 0 for 9 in that game against him.
Wow.
I mean, we saw it the other night with the Dodgers. The Dodgers had that pitcher who was cruising. He had a no-hitter, and he gave up 1 hit. Roberts is like, the ball barely even fell in the outfield. He's like, get him out of there.
That happens more often than not. Like, what's the panic over?
What are you doing?
925. I think they're talking to me, Larry. You were loving Gabe Kapler last year. Yes, I was. But there was a facet to his game that wasn't on display because everything else from the spreadsheet and analytics was working. Plus, the players were handling their business. My question to you is, who's going to discipline the kids when they come home, when they don't come home on time and they miss curfew? That's what I think Gabe's lacking. And you can duct tape it up, Gorilla Glue, and that it won't come to that, but that's fake. At the end of the day, those things got to be on display. And that's why I keep going to the Jim Leland's, the Bruce Bochy's. I know they knew how to take it. They were like doctors. I don't need you to check your blood pressure. I can feel it.
And our opinions, by the way, evolve. Right,
reacting to new information.
Seriously, in new information. Just because you like somebody last year doesn't mean you can't like him this year. And just because his voice, the players responded to him last year, doesn't mean that the entire team hasn't tuned him out this year.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying?
It's Crawford tweet from the missus. I keep hanging on to that.
Let's keep evaluating this.
Brandon Belt, that day we talk about getting pulled, Larry, that can't be cool. And if Will can see it, there's got to be whispers among the, like, I'm interested to see, like you said, they're not going to tank on purpose to players, but their mindset. Like, are they watching now who's getting the most of this blame? And if they continue to really stink it up, I mean, Gabe will really, because you're right. What bothers me is, why would the media be afraid that dog and pony show you say after every game?
Well, and the other thing, I did an interview with Bruce Bochy after 2014, and we were talking about managing, and he's like, a lot of managers playing the hot hand.
I'm gonna give you a 4.
I'm playing the hot hand. I'll tell you, Krueger, you got to play the hot hand. Right. And I'm like, you know what?
Where did that go?
Play the hot hand. But if you're looking at analytics and you're looking at matchups and you're trying to get advantageous matchups, that gives no room for the hot hand. All that you're looking at is Belt's average, this guy's average against lefties, this guy's average against righties. Yeah, but you're sitting in the dugout the guy just got 3 hits. Does that factor into the whole thing? It's like the hot hand has no relevance at all.
And that I don't want any part of that. That's why I'm out. I got to go back to this because I just asked you, when did you have the ideal of Will managing?
Well,
before Saturday,
I'm just when I'm looking at all these interviews of Gabe and everybody is soft pedaling everything and everybody's tiptoeing around him.
And why?
And you can see that the media is very concerned about him biting their head off. And then I'm sitting there and I'm going, wait a second. This is what I'm watching on the field.
Oh.
They're tight as a drum in that post-game interview, and they're tight as a drum on the field. So I'd like to see. I think Kapler's smart. I think Kapler is a really intelligent guy. I think he's smart. I think he's analytical. But as far as I think in an ideal world, it's a blend. It's a blend of analytical information and feel.
Yeah.
And your feel comes from experience. But if you're going to block out all your feel and you're just going to plug in analytical information, then let's replace you, save the money, and get a nice little computer in the dugout.
Yeah. And Larry, I'm hugging you, and I'm not hugging you literally, but that's just how I feel. And when we get back, I want to talk to you about the game in itself, and we'll get to the 49ers, but just baseball and what we're watching, because Will wasn't happy, and I'm not happy with what I'm watching. But again, it's like a man scorned or a fan scorned. I love the game. I grew up on it, but I can't ignore the differences, and we'll touch on that when we get back. Larry Krueger, Daryle Johnson, right here on 95.7 The Game.
The MLB trade deadline has come and gone.
Larry Krueger and Daryle the Guru Johnson, and I don't smoke, Larry, but I feel like I need a cigarette after that Will Clark interview. I mean, the fire, man. And you've been with him in person.
Yes, and he is the best as far as you get him, and like I was telling you, I emceed this dinner, and all these people came in, they were big fans of Will, and the format is you have a dinner, couple drinks, and then I go up on the stage and interview him for like an hour, and then the moderator walks around the audience with a mic, and they get their questions. Yeah. Will in that setting is spectacular. He spins yarns. He'll take shots. He's
the shots from the bar too.
He'll shots, but he'll take shots about baseball or the commissioner or how the game's played or the differences between eras or how things have changed, or he'll even take shots at current players in that setting. He's not going to necessarily do it on the radio, but he's so genuine. He's so great, and that fight, believe me. Anybody who was around for the 80s remembers the difference between the Giants when Will was on the field and the Giants when Will wasn't on the field. He's like, I was saying to you at the commercial, it's almost like a Steph Curry. When Steph's on the court because of how the team defenses him, and he changes the whole geometry of the game. Like, people are guarding him 35 feet away from the bucket. Well, Will wasn't like that, but he was loud and you could hear him over the crowd, and he's pointing and he's yelling things, and I mean, the guy brought incredible energy and intensity to the game, and you knew when he was taking a day off. It was a totally different vibe when he was on the field as opposed to when he wasn't. You know what? It's interesting, Larry, and he also backed up what you said when I said basically what ails his team. It's not just about the Buster Posey departure, but Larry, he said up the middle and mentioned Brandon Crawford, who to me is the best shortstop in Giants history. And he had a bounce back year last year. And I'm not saying he's been bad, but he's been unavailable. But he's 35. And he doesn't take PEDs. And wow, Larry, now you get that out the park. I mean, that's just the way it is. Crawford's still really good. If you put Crawford right now on a playoff team, not that he's going nowhere. He's a Pleasanton kid. He signed up here. I think he's got no trade. But if you put him on a contender, he would dial it back to the way he played the last couple of years, and he would be this force. I really think the Giants slide, it coincides with him being out, or he's a big game player. I'm not saying he's Derek Jeter, but I mean he's he like a Draymond Green. Is Draymond Green good on a second division team? No, not really. He'll never have the impact of what he has now. This is a great team. Okay. Yeah, you put him on a championship team in the finals, and suddenly it's like, wow, this guy's unbelievable. Same with Crawford. If you raise the stakes, I think Crawford's batting 198 at home. Yeah, 2 home runs. Definitely different than last year. And defensively, he slid a little bit this year, and the injuries. But it's it's life, man. We all get old. What about because we talked about this Monday, and I used to be like, was it Bill Russell, the late great Bill Russell, or Shaq? I really respect the games and the eras. I don't even do it. You can have some fun, but I've seen some people really ready to come to blows over the eras, and it just, you miss so much. It's almost like impossible to captivate everything that was then, put it in now. Everybody can get their flowers. Just the fact that if you say, who's the GOAT, Larry or Guru, there is no loser to me. It's just an honor to be mentioned with you. So that's how I'm looking at these eras. But I say that to say the way the game is played now, Larry, I don't want to sound like the old dude. I can't stand it. And when I got this fetish, another one. I love the lineup card, Larry. I love, like, the Dodgers. They have one that match the Cardinals. I get why, but he's batting third. And then you get, it makes sense. But the Giants is so much platooning. You don't even, who's leading out? They let off Darren Ruff. Right. Darren Ruff. We could outrun Darren Ruff. Right. And you can get away with it, but you don't really have that substance of the Will's Day. This is what it is. Pretty much 5 or 6 days out the week, who's where and who's doing what. But I miss that part of baseball. Well, I mean, this is more specific to the Giants right now, is that I really think the team that you have is the team that you put on the field. It's not necessarily your pitching. It's who plays first, second, short, third. You look around the diamond right now, Giants they juggle every position.
They juggle every position.
It's like they should play Joey Bart every day, but they don't. You should play Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford every day, but they.
How much is that on Farhan? Because I don't believe that's Gabe's to 100% just all his idea.
The Giants are playing the numbers, and they believe that if they play the numbers over the long term, that it will benefit them. But I think that strict reliance on those lefty-righty matchups is too much. And there's no room for feel, and there's no room for playing the hot hand.
I just hate that.
Jock Peterson was. Give you an example. He was an
all-star.
They pulled Jock Peterson for Darren Ruff earlier this year. Ruff had somebody die in his family. He was hitting 220. Peterson was rolling. He was headed to the All-Star game.
He was.
And it's like, I get it. You've got a lefty pitcher against Jock Peterson, and he's in here mostly to face right-handed pitchers. And Darren Ruff's on the team because he's going to face those tough lefties. But adjust. One guy's going through personal tragedy. He's having a rough first half. The other guy's having an all-star campaign. Make the adjustment. Instead it's like, no,
with Jock's confidence.
Lefty-righty.
I wonder how much that messed with his confidence too.
Well, now I think he's a little dinged up and everything. But 3-4 weeks ago, Jock was on a pace for 35 bombs.
Yes, he was.
And still he was getting pinch hit by Darren Ruff when Ruff wasn't going well. Now, I get that. I get when you put the team together in January or February where you huddled in March, that was the plan. I understand. And it was a reasonable plan, and it's still a reasonable plan. Make the adjustment.
Yeah.
Make the adjustment. Don't ignore what you're seeing in front of your eyes. So, use analytics and use them liberally. But
let it be an ingredient.
It shouldn't be the end all be all. You shouldn't be. And if it is, what do we need you for?
And there you go. Let's go out to Oakland. Leroy to the program. What's up, Leroy?
Go.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
Me and Larry riding it while Scotty's on vacation. Just disappointed in the Giants, Leroy.
I know, Go. I know. Hey, welcome, Larry, man.
Thanks,
it's
man.
a pleasure to have you. And Steiny, I miss you if you're listening. Look, I don't know what to do. I know one thing, though. We're not too far out of that wild card thing, man. And once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. People are going, well, even if you get in at the wild card, they're not going to do much in the play. Well, you don't know what they're going to do, and you don't know what other teams are going to do. So I'm looking at that as kind of Goo, you like silver linings. I'm looking at that as, look, let's try to make some noise, but Kapler, we got to shake up some things, right? So check this out, Goo. I know you like to, you like the role play. So I'm Kapler, you're on my staff, and I come to you and go, man, I'm thinking about shaking this lineup. Hey, look, I'm going with Flores leading off. I'm going with Gonzalez second. I'm going with Wade Jr. third. I'm letting Belt hit cleanup. I'm going with Bart at number 5. I'm going at Slater at number 6. I'm going Mercedes number 7. I'm going 8 Villar, and I'm going 9 Machado. What would you say to that, Goo?
I wouldn't be mad, and Flores is swinging the bat. He might be swinging it better than any Giant right now.
Seriously, get Wilmer up top. Once again, what are we talking about? He's talking about riding the hot hand.
Gotcha.
Well, who's swinging it? Wilmer's swinging
that
it.
He is.
He's put him up top. So I kind of like that instead of going strictly by the numbers.
Let's go out to Union City. Byron wants to talk about the Giants. Welcome, Byron.
Hey, look, I want to say, the Giants is going to be all right, man. Don't sell the team. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. Just chill. They won 107. They basically got the same lineup. Now, the other teams are winning 40 games. Crazy. The Dodgers record is crazy. The San Diego's record is crazy. So let them go sell the whole team to my Nationals. We let Soto go. He got us a ring. We let it go. We build him. And believe me, the Giants are going to be okay. It's the deuce year. It's the even year for them. Watch the miracles happen.
Wow. Appreciate the call. I forgot about that.
What if the Giants win the World Series this year?
Larry, they're 5 out with 58 left. It's still there, but
this year is our year.
Would this be crazier than them winning 107 and not winning it?
Yes.
Because Larry, they're 51 and 53.
They have 2/5 of a rotation. Their pen's a circus. The defense is
You're right.
It's awful. You tune in every game. They got one run in the sixth.
What if I told you I'm watching the game last night?
They're going to win the World Series over the Yankees and Astros and Dodgers.
Outside of Bart's, and I heard Willard mention this, but outside of Bart's homer, and I hate I'm this guy, those were some of the bloopest of bloop hits when they got the fire. But why would I even look at it like that? But I was like, that ain't, but it counts. But still, even then, I was just like, man, that's kind of those flares ain't real. But you got to catch St. Louis and Philly right now. And 5 games back, 58 to play.
Let's talk about it for a second, though. If they keep adding wild card teams, would the Giants ever drop out of the race by the trade deadline?
Right.
At some point, sometimes you got to take a step back.
Well, right now,
to take 2 steps forward. Why not go with a Bart? Why not go with a Ramos? Why not take inventory on a couple of your young guys? And guess what? Maybe you don't go to the playoffs this year, but if you got out of this year that Bart was a keeper, Ramos was a keeper, VR was a keeper, and you discovered maybe in September that Kyle Harrison could be a rotation piece, and maybe there's a couple, they mentioned RJ Dabovich and Cole Waits are 2 live arms they really like for their bullpen. Let's say they discovered those guys in September. You would go into 2023 with more momentum than you're going to have if you just run out the same old crew and hope that it's going to be better. I mean, at some point you have to introduce some new young blood to your roster, and you got to allow them some breathing room to fail. I mean, that's Joey Bart looked awful earlier this year. And now he's getting it going a little bit, right?
And I'm not even looking at the average. I'm
nobody is.
His mannerisms,
exactly, and hoping he pumps a couple out of the yard every now and then. So I don't know. You can't win every year. It would if you're really in that mindset of, hey, if we just get in, anything can happen. You can kind of delude yourself into never rebuilding or reloading. And I think the Giants right now have never been more in need of kind of a reload. And this might be the perfect year to do it.
You know what? I can't wait for September 1 because we may see those names. And I'll say this about baseball. I just hate like AA. You see, well, now they're about to turn it back to 18 years old in the NBA. You could come out and I'm not telling you this is how you should do it, but you get a chance to play with the big boys. And then he's young. It's going to take some time. I wish we could see more AA players or just players play and fail. This is the era now of baseball where the average does not count. The 3 or 4 strikeout game is not an embarrassment like it used to be. Give these guys an opportunity sooner. I'm looking at O'Neal Cruz in Pittsburgh. He's got flaws, but he's got raw power. And now you're seeing him with 8 or 9 homers. He just got called up a couple months ago, but those homers mean more than just a run on the board for me. I'm like, okay, this is something that's you would assume get greater later. I just wish baseball would, again, it goes back to trust. I get you're in AA, but I would like to see him get the opportunity more so. And I understand it's all the red tape to prevent you from coming up.
Don't start his salary.
Yeah,
don't get his clock started.
That's all not like
Super twos.
If it's
and
about
all this.
Larry getting better, let him try and let us see sooner.
I agree. Like there was this guy in the NBA draft, John Butler.
Okay.
Who played at Florida State.
Yeah.
The guy's like 7'1", but he probably weighs like 180. I mean, he's
like Sean Bradley.
I mean, this guy is super skinny.
Gotcha.
But he's got handle. He's got a 3-point shot, and he's got talent, right? But the guy's like 2 years away from being 2 years away because, I mean, he's so weak, so physically weak. But he's got legit game. I'd rather invest in somebody like that and see that person put on the weight, and 2 years you're going to have something, as opposed to get somebody who's more ready right now but doesn't have that upside. So, I mean, some of these guys just need opportunity.
Well, and that's what I'm talking about. Exactly. And some trust, a little bit of trust,
and some patience. Like, hey, you know what? Even if it doesn't happen for you tonight, you're not going to be bounced back to the minor leagues or banished. Somehow we understand it's a process.
I love the fact that I don't love it, but you said it. The Giants got 2/5 of a rotation, and tonight it's Urias against Cobb. Like, I have no faith in any Giant pitcher, and the one constant has been Webb hasn't been last year's Webb, and Rodon at times, it's just not a win for the Giants like it used to be. And now I'm figuring that out, and I'm probably late to the party. But like tonight, it's Cobb with the ball against that Dodger lineup. I'm like, man, maybe they could salvage 2 games, a split in this series with the day game tomorrow. But that's a big ask.
Yeah.
Because I turn it on tonight, and then they lose, and then they're 6-back. But to Leroy's credit, I did like that lineup. Flores is hot.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, Machado has got a great glove.
Yeah.
But he's not a major league hitter, so you got to hit him 9th for sure. So I thought his lineup made sense. But there is what they really need are 3 or 4 new bats in that lineup. I mean, it's that, and that's where I don't want people to think that we're blaming Kapler. I'm not blaming Kapler for this year because I think they're short. I think the owners didn't spend enough money. I think Farhan didn't build a good enough team. It's not all on Cap. He just has to, face the slings and arrows because he's managing this club night after night. But I do see a relative deadness, and I don't like the vibe around the Giants this year. Either the way,
and I don't think Will does either.
The way Cap sounds when he's talking to the media, it's like he's very measured. Do you like this guy? Well, we like all of our players. What's that? Shoot us straight. There's been a story that happened over the weekend or even late last week that I want to talk to you about. Yeah.
And it involves this live golf offer to Tiger Woods. And you heard about it. It was in the neighborhood, Larry, of 700 to 800 million. And he turned it down. And I'm jealous. I'm envious. But how much money must Tiger Woods have? And then the second thing is Liv must be balling out of control. Maybe they should take over what's going on in the nation's capital, and then the deficit it wouldn't even be a deficit. But where are you to be able to offer one man $700 to $800 million?
He moves the needle. He drives people into the tent. He's not even the golfer that he was. I mean, and everybody understands it.
But where are they getting their money to be able to offer?
They're getting it from Saudi Arabia.
Let's use that towards monkeypox. I mean, vaccine. Seriously, to offer one man. That's what's wrong with him. I gotta go. It ain't seeing any of the politics, but I just think about that money. Give that to public schools, all kind of fix the roads. But
and
he said no. That lets you know how much money he has, Larry.
You're addressing, an age-long problem. I mean, why do we spend so much on entertainers and entertainment, and why do we value?
Even during the Great Depression, they did it too, though, Larry. Way back
we
when.
don't value school teachers that way. We don't value policemen that way. We don't value firemen that way. The people that actually keep our society going. But it's like, you know what? It's such a separate discussion that it's almost not worth having. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. But
are you mad at some of these golfers taking money from Liv?
Oh, I'm not. Absolutely not.
Me either.
I'm not.
Come on.
And I don't. To me, the people that are jumping up and down, going, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever." Where are you? You're not jumping up and down as the NBA's taking all this money from China.
Larry,
unless you're going to be super offended by that, why are you super offended by all this money coming from Saudi Arabia?
That was the next thing out of my mouth.
I mean,
where do you draw that Diggs' line? Where did you draw the line?
I mean, the selective morality garbage has got to end. I mean, we supposed to not notice that?
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, well, wait a second. What about China and all the money that's invested in the NBA has invested in China? Well, it's kind of a complex issue. Oh, really? It's really not that complex. What's really complex is why you don't want to talk about it. So I don't know. To me, there's a lot of hypocrites who go down this road. And people, Phil Mickelson's the Antichrist because he was considering taking this money. But what about the NBA's investment in China?
No, it's real, man.
We're nobody's calling anybody.
And we can add about 3 or 4
Suddenly
other
it's complex,
things.
and we can't break it down. Suddenly LeBron doesn't want to talk about it. Suddenly nobody wants to talk about that. So I don't know. I mean, the blend of where the money comes from
and the fake outrage.
Yeah, I mean,
it's everywhere now.
Exactly. I mean, to me, it just seemed, and it's selective too. It's like I'm going to be outraged about this, but not that. Where's the consistency?
I'm random.
And Tiger, by the way, is firmly about tradition.
He's got so much money to turn that down. That's what he's
pushed back on all these golfers who have joined that tour,
man. Dude, I mean, if you had. Let's say you had 10 million would you be doing what you do now? Would you still be doing the YouTube?
No, I'd be
Larry. I would throw the deuces. I would be
seriously.
I think I'm going to Canada to find Steiny's estate. But yeah, I'm going Vancouver. I'm getting out of here, man. I want to.
I'm playing cards with Willie Nelson and Willie Nelson and Don Nelson on Maui.
Look at Will. All right.
You know, seriously, I'm sitting on a beach in Maui, kicking up my feet.
Now tomorrow we got the first preseason game again, the Hall of Fame game,
and I'll be on it.
That's what I was going to ask.
Do you bet? Are you a wager? Are you a guy that wagers a lot?
Larry, I will bet on 2 ants going across the street. So to answer your question, yes.
Will you bet on the preseason NFL?
The under, yes.
You will?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to take in a meeting, man.
Oh, man. But I don't have much